I love you guys.
Dance off, bro. I have the high ground.
Expecto Patronum!
39 days, 20 people, 1 survivor. Tribe of Nerds.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tribe of Nerds International Survivor coverage. Matt, Michael, and I are here to talk about our next international season, Survivor UK 2023, which I'm sure Michael is going to have a lot to say about because it's his homeland. So, yeah, let's talk about our impressions of the season and the cast, and of course our host Joel Dommett. So, what do you guys think of this season, like first impressions wise?
I should have been on it.
Yes.
I think, so I've mentioned this in the Doug and Christopher interviews, but just in case anyone watches this that hasn't watched those, I applied to be on the show. I made it quite far through the auditions, and I was like so sure I was going to make it on. I thought it went really well. I was pretty convinced that I was going to make it, and then I didn't. So I will say the first time I watched this season, I was maybe a little bit biased because I was watching with the attitude of, okay, they didn't pick me, so let's see who they got onto this show then that was better than me. And it's like, this person sucks. They don't know what they're doing.
You can say Lee's name. You can say Lee's name. It's fine.
We'll be talking a lot about Lee, I feel like.
Yeah.
But I will say I really enjoyed it a lot more the second time, and I will get into it episode by episode, but it does start off very slow, and it picks up massively. The only downside to it starting so slow is, this is our first season in the UK, and by the time it gets really good, a lot of people that haven't heard of Survivor and are just watching it for the first time maybe didn't get that far. So I feel like you want to start off strong and have a big, exciting first few episodes. And I think the slow introduction of idols, while I get them wanting to kind of drip feed these things into the season, I feel like if you're going to introduce the show to new people, just come out swinging and just throw all the shit at the wall and get people's attention. So it was a slow start, but there is some very key casting decisions here that really hold this season up, and thank God they got them. I will say.
Thank you, Lee.
No.
We know who it is. It's Christopher, Doug, Tinuke. Like, those are the big three.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely, those three. Matt, any other impressions of this cast and season?
Yeah, before I get into it, can we talk about how Michael lost a hair versus hair match? Because he looks way better now.
Yes. So Michael got a new haircut.
If you have had this haircut when you applied, you may have gotten on.
Fun story. I was getting annoyed with my long hair back then, and I deliberately didn't get a haircut before my auditions because I thought this is just part of my look. I don't want to go in with short hair because I'll just look like everyone else. So I kept my long hair because of my Survivor auditions.
Yeah, but
they're still in the friggin' work.
But Survivor is only allowed to have one long-haired man, and that was Shy. So he took your shot.
There we go.
But going back, basically what Michael touched on, I actually liked how it was like kind of like a history of Survivor. But I understand from like his perspective, like you want the British fans to like just be like right into it. Because while I enjoyed it, because I'm so used to like Australia, being fast paced, so it's nice like a slow burn. But like if you don't know what Survivor is, those first couple episodes would be probably pretty boring.
Yeah.
And also, we're coming off the back of the Traitors in the UK over here was a huge hit. So, like, cutthroat strategic games have started to get a bit more attention over here. So, a lot of people on social media were comparing this to the Traitors and were saying it's just not as good as the Traitors. I even saw some people saying, oh, they're just stealing from the Traitors. And I was having arguments on Twitter saying, Survivor came first. It's been going for 25 years. So yeah, I think in comparison, it just seemed a bit like one-dimensional early on.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, as we were saying, like that premiere started off slow, and I'm gonna compare this to the first modern season of Australian Survivor too, is
Yeah.
like that maybe started a little slower as well, but that cast by and large was a lot better. And also that first episode had Des and Kat fighting, so like that probably got more views, and this didn't really have like a big like pull of a couple people having drama, or like there just wasn't as much going on, and even the vote doesn't make a lot of sense like at first glance when you're like watching this episode. So but we'll get into the premiere shortly.
I will also say as well, I think production needs to shoulder some of the blame in terms of the choices here as well,
Yeah,
because we know from speaking to Doug and speaking to Christopher and them talking about the cast that there was strategy going on, there was gameplay going on in these early episodes, but the edit decided to focus it on camp life, challenge strength, and they didn't show necessarily the alliances that were being built or the reasons or the strategy that was going on behind the scenes. So when I watched it, I was just thinking, oh, they're not even talking strategy, they're not even doing these things. And no, it was a choice that production made to just kind of focus on the back to basics Survivor, I guess.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, talking about interesting production decisions, we literally have the tribal immunity idol that is a log with jewelry glued on it. Like what are they thinking?
I have a lot of notes on this. I feel like production was like, oh shit, we forgot to do a fucking idol, so they just grab a log and just bedazzle it. I mean, that's all it really is.
Art and craft log.
It's so weird.
I don't know what is worse, this idol or the hidden idols in New Era Survivor, which are just like strings of rope.
I'll take the log.
Yeah.
The log is better than those little friendship bracelets.
Yeah,
and even the necklace, when we get to individual immunity, it's just this little flimsy prop thing. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Joel Dommett real quick before we break down the episodes. So with Joel, he's a comedian over there in the UK, right? Yeah.
Comedian, presenter, yeah.
That makes sense, because like I mean, you watch this and a lot of Joel's commentary is touching on like his comedy career, right?
So Joel is a big name over here. He hosts The Masked Singer, and he's a comedian. He tours, and I first heard of Joel. He did I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, which is a huge show over here in like 2016, I think. And like everyone loved him on it. He was such a nice guy and charming, and I think he finished second on that show. And then from there, like his career blew up. And so when they announced Joel was doing it, I thought he's a very interesting choice, because he's nothing like Jeff, he's nothing like JLP, he's nothing like Nico. He's a very unique Survivor host, and I actually think Joel was fantastic in this. I don't know what you guys think about him, but I really liked the more comedic side of the Survivor host. I think he did get serious when he needed to at Tribal Council, but he I thought it was, we talked about JLP having like his niche of like the innuendos and the funny little sides at challenges. I really like that Joel kind of had his own brand of humor, and when he gives out like one grain of pepper to one of the tribe mates after they lost the challenge, it's just like little things where he's just having fun. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, I think on the rewatch, I think I appreciated Joel a little bit more. I think on the first watch, I wasn't sure what to think, because like the first few episodes, and then like just like, you know, trying to get into it. But here, like I thought Joel worked. Like I thought he was good enough. I think like with more seasons, Joel could have gotten even better, but unfortunately we just didn't get that far at this point. So
basically what you guys said, the first time I thought he was just trying to get himself over, like he was just putting himself in spots where I'm not used to a host like talking. But on the second watch, it was definitely better. And I just realized, apparently, to become a host of Survivor, your name needs to start with a J. So we have Jeff, Jonathan, Joel, and then Nico's the only outlier.
Yeah.
Nico.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I don't know if we wanted to rank the hosts. I don't know how that would go, but
well, I was actually thinking about this while you guys were talking. Like, I want JLP at Tribal, and then I actually liked Joel during the challenges. So if we could have like Joel during the challenges, JLP at Tribal, and then, I don't want to lose Nico though. I can lose Jeff.
And Jeff can just retire.
Jeff,
Jeff
yeah, I think Jeff has passed his expiration date at this point. Sad to say.
Just like his original face.
The face of Bao.
All right. Well, let's get into the episode breakdown. So the first episode, we kick off with you have in the middle of the night, you have the 18 players walking onto the boat. And so it's kind of similar to Australian Survivor 2017 of like they have like the big barge and then you have the supplies and they have to get them to the beach as like the first challenge. So I found that cool. Like this definitely took from Australian Survivor, which isn't a bad thing. Like I think they needed to get certain things that they got right, like correct. So I enjoyed the challenges in this season. I'll say that.
Yeah, it was clearly heavily inspired by Australian Survivor. Excuse me. And also in this opening, by the way, is this when we get like the most spoiler-filled opening?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
We get all the spoilers of the challenges.
They literally show you votes during the opening.
I was so...
what are you doing?
Because I said that in our chat when we started rewatching as well, and I'm like, why are we seeing, like, I know it, we all know it's going to happen because we watched this before, but like, why?
I think especially watching it a second time when you do know what's going to happen, it's crazy how spoilery it is. Like the first time I was kind of like, well, I don't know these people yet. I'll not remember any of this stuff. But there's big things in there. It's like, don't show that right at the beginning. I get you're trying to hook viewers in and explain the premise of the show, but don't show that much. Jeez.
Yeah. What, like they like showing the clip of Chris in the shoulder of the load challenge where he's like under all the weight. They like
to be fair, I mean, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's very dramatic. They like showing that clip. They like showing they show like Ashley's name coming up in the opening montage. It's like, okay, we didn't need to know that, so we know Ashley's at least getting votes in this season.
Yeah.
But no, it's just interesting, very interesting editing choice that doesn't work. So
while we're also on just like the production and the presentation of things, no opening titles.
Yeah.
We don't get the Survivor Classic opening titles, which at least, especially for like the super fans out there, give them the opening titles. You want to see your name in the action shot and like, yeah.
Do we not even get that at all season?
No.
I don't even remember this. That's
it's literally
crazy.
Just like a circular Survivor logo.
Yes, yeah. And they do that. Yeah, that's crazy to me because like even
they definitely stole that from US Survivor when they got rid of it for like 20 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
sure.
It's crazy to me that they really don't use that because every other international version does use it, Australia and South Africa, and so so the opening happens. The Lenana does win the reward challenge of the rice. And I mean, we're going to see that Lenana starts up very strong immediately.
Yeah, this is an OP win. They get all the supplies. It's like, this is like almost unfair. Like, I felt bad.
Yeah.
This is like, is it Fiji or so, where they get like just ridiculous advantages at the beginning in terms of living. It's like, it's kind of crazy that they got so much.
Yeah. Well, going back on this, I made a note that Lenina is kind of stacked with the guys because they have Doug, they have Lee, they have Christopher, they have Pegleg, who is like still really good. Versus the other. I mean, they had Nathan, but he just kind of wasn't as cool as I thought he was going to be.
Yeah,
I thought he's like big and bulky, but like
he's
like big and bulky doesn't help unless it's like pure physical. Like you need the more like stocky build of like.
Well,
he is the Zach of Survivor UK.
Except without the his misogynistic side went to Lee.
Yeah. So they split it up. So they took Zach and split him up into two halves.
Yep. All right. So then I mean, I don't know that anything interesting honestly happens at camp before the immunity challenge here.
I do find it fascinating how close the camps were. They
Yeah,
show you
I
this
have
like
no,
shot where the beaches are like it's just like a little peninsula, and then like the two beaches like there, they're right next to each other. Someone could just like swim around and have like tribe to tribe conversations.
They could have done that. I mean, we've even seen it in US seasons.
Yeah,
People literally used to go to each other's
yeah,
islands.
yeah. That was, I
So
mean, that was. I wish they would bring that back because that was fun.
it well, and like, it was so unexpected when US Survivor had that happen, like Guatemala or Cook Islands, like all of a
Yeah.
sudden they're just able to go do that. And now like they're obviously not able to do that. But yeah, and then we also get I know we get a lot of transitions where like they put pop culture music in this, which I also don't think works for Survivor. Like,
Yeah.
I agree.
don't use pop culture music.
Yeah, it felt very Love Island, and they even had like Joel narrating, which like I didn't like as a touch. I don't need the host to be let the players generate the story. I don't need the host to be
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Although I do have an idea for pop culture music. Maybe at the Final Immunity Challenge, they can use the updated "Like a Prayer" from Deadpool and Wolverine. I think that would actually be awesome.
I
Like,
actually would love that.
Yeah, just as somebody's about to win is when the music like really picks up.
So in season 2, when I'm there on the Final Immunity Challenge, we can have that in the background.
And then Michael's
Yeah.
shirt can just like explode up.
My bigger belly just pops out.
All right. So then we do get to the immunity challenge, which is holding the barrels up. And it just is very interesting. So immediately, Leilani is struggling, and really Calaton is completely struggling. And you look at Richard and you would think that Richard is somebody who's going to be able to that he would be stronger, maybe. But
I never had that. I
barrels.
never had that. Yeah, I never had that thought. And he was holding 2 barrels, which is like a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I was just a little shocked, and but he does drop, and Calaton loses their second challenge in a row here. And they have to go to tribal council. And so this is where we're gonna say goodbye to Richard. I mean, Shy's name comes up obviously here as well, which I feel really bad for Shy throughout the season. Like, he is one of the super fans on this season, and he literally is just, I mean, he's really getting called some really not great things for some reason, and like we don't really know why. So
I don't want to be mean, but man, Calaton just sucks. I like considering like Calaton goes to tribal council at this point in the game. 90% of the edit is focused on Lenena because that's where most of the interesting stuff is happening.
Yep.
Whereas like we don't get much at all from Calaton, with the exception of like Tinuke, Nathan, who becomes important, and like Shy's clearly a super fan, but we don't get much of him other than he's not getting on with people. Oh, and Matthew, he's there too.
yeah, Matthew's here.
Yeah, but like we barely got anything of him until the swap, though.
Yeah,
he didn't come into his own until the swap. So it's like we just get nothing from Calaton, and they when they jump back to Calaton, it's just like mini little confessionals of like, oh, life here is miserable, and then it goes back to Lenena where the interesting stuff happening.
Yeah, they knew that their more interesting half of the cast was on Lenena. So but like, so Richard all of a sudden gets blamed by Nathan. Nathan really is gunning for Richard here. And I do find it just interesting that, Richard does get blamed completely for the challenge, but there has to be more to this story than Richard just dropped the barrels.
So, yeah.
And I did notice, because I said this in our chat after rewatching the premiere, is that Richard on the mat on the boat, he basically was like hiding information, or he's like, I'm not going to reveal everything about myself. I feel like that just left a very bad first impression, and like that's probably what happened from there.
Yeah, there could have been more to it because, like you say, he was one of the people that was holding the 2 barrels for their tribe, and like it's not like he just gave up on the challenge.
That's true.
I was actually going to ask you guys this because he was accused of that, and if you watch when he drops it, he like drops it and like throws his hands up like he's giving up. Like if you were holding it and just like slip. You don't have time to like go like that. So I think he did give up. Sorry, Richard.
I think he gave up in the sense that he didn't have anything left to give. But like, yeah, if you're gonna drop, you should like let it slide out. Do it in a way where you're showing that you're giving everything. So I get why they got that read, but I just think he couldn't give any more and he couldn't hold it anymore, so he gave up.
And speaking of that, maybe he didn't give up and he didn't want it to slide through his hands, because we saw with Ashley like her hands got beat up from holding that rope, because this was like a basic rope. Like you need like gloves to hold that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, here we're also going to get at this tribal council. Jess is going to vote for Shy outside of where everybody else is voting. So that's very, very interesting. And for Jess, like, I feel like I think she was starting to learn the game, like, right up until like when she was about to get booted. She finally, I think, got it, but it was too late by that point. And I mean, that's pretty clear from the fact that she votes like outside of everyone else, like at the 2 tribal councils where they're voting someone out before the swap. So, I don't think Jess is that great of a player. I think she was definitely setting herself up for that downfall she gets later on.
Yeah, she was kind of a nothing player for me. I have 2 more notes on this episode, which are both production based.
Oh, no, wait. Can I say one first? Can I say one first? Because I think we have the same one. The voting parchment is fucking terrible paper. I just want to say that.
That is one of mine, but it's not the one I was hoping. I was thinking maybe Matt's going to have this note too. I wonder if you'd made the connection. When they go into tribal council, there's like a little drum beat as they go in that sounds so much like Ric Flair's music, the wrestler Ric Flair. It's like a dum dum dum, like as they go into tribal council. And every episode, I just thought of Ric Flair.
That's funny. Also, I did want to mention on the barge. Also, Joel makes fun of Jess, which I did think was hilarious.
Yeah. Speaking of funny things, I just want to mention this because on this rewatch, I liked Lawrence way more, and he was like way more funnier than I remembered. So some of the quotes I have from him or about him are "No more ice in my gin and tonic." In fact, no more gin and tonic at all. And then during the first challenge, when they're jumping off the boat, Joel says, "I'm sure this isn't the first time Lawrence has jumped off a boat in the Caribbean," and I just laughed at that.
Yeah,
I find Lawrence fascinating. Like, I feel like he would be slightly. I got the impression maybe he'd be the type of player who would be like a fan or like just like a super strategist, and it's not. He's a little bit more complex than that, I think. Yeah. So I actually feel like Lawrence is kind of on the cusp of like being one of the great casting choices. Like he definitely wasn't as bad as some of the other ones.
Yeah. But when I think of stereotypical UK people, like the stuffy person, like Lawrence is like who I picture.
Yeah,
he's a very posh person.
Yeah, but it's just he is definitely funny, and I definitely get that impression as well.
I never thought of him as much of a fan, but then at Final Tribal Council, he's like talking about Lilani being a goat, and I was like, I like he's got some terminology. I think maybe he is somewhat of a fan.
I just saw like certain points where he has like little bits of like strategic chops. So I was like, okay, Lawrence must know a little bit about this game at least. So,
and then we'll talk about that later when he decides not to vote for Tinuke, so he doesn't get the blame.
Yeah, well, and then he gets blamed later on for the lobster trap anyway.
I don't think that was a good plan.
I don't know. Karma, I don't
know. All right. So anything else to say on Richard? Are we ready to hit episode 2?
No. Bye, Richard.
All right,
Richard.
Bye.
Well, I do think it's kind of funny. You know, Richard goes first here, but in the U.S. first season, Richard won. So it's like a nice little.
That's very true. That is cool. Bookends. Reverse bookends, I guess. Yeah. All right. So now we get to episode 2, and this is where we're going to get to see more of Lanena and the more interesting dynamics that are going on. And I think it's like such a good thing that Calaton went on a little bit of a winning streak, so we could at least see more of the more interesting personalities. So I know, like, let's get to that reward challenge. So as we talked about with like Nathan being like this big bulky guy and being good in physical challenges, the underdog ends up beating
Underdog.
Yeah, this looked brutal. It looked brutal too.
Yeah. Yeah, it
this
was
was the like the classic champions versus contenders kind of opening challenge that they do, like down the slide and then like have a little wrestle at the bottom.
And in season 2, where Mark Wales and Lockie went against each other and Lockie got naked.
Yeah.
By accident.
By accident.
He got stripped.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think I mentioned this to you guys, but if you notice, during the challenge, you can see Doug and Nathan covered in dirt and mud before they actually showed their turn. So the editing showed us that that matchup last because it was the best, but it was obviously probably a couple rounds before.
I didn't even notice that. That's
no,
I did, but one thing that you probably did notice, Lee shows he's a dick by taunting Shy during their matchup.
Yeah. He literally he does the Emmett thing of where he taunts Shy and like doesn't place it in the bag. But unlike Emmett, Shy unfortunately doesn't get to tackle Lee.
I was actually really hoping
we all
do see Lee get humbled at times throughout these challenges, which is always satisfying.
But it's never his fault, though. It's never his fault.
No,
apparently not. No, I mean,
if a female fails a challenge, it's their fault.
Shy does get his revenge on Lee in a couple of challenges coming up. So, all right. So the Lenana tribe does win the reward. They get a little bit of pepper, as we alluded to earlier, with Joel giving he gives Doug some pepper.
And then some fishing gear.
Yep.
Also,
and then
in the challenge we have the slow-mo oil up scene where the men rubbing oil on themselves.
And then you even have Lee say a moment of silence for the boys oiling up, which I actually did enjoy.
His one funny quote.
Yeah. I'll give him credit when he deserves it. And now I'm done. I don't have any more.
Also, so we get back to camp, and this is where I think we get the Sabrina montage as well. So we start getting some montages here and there. And I find it interesting the first episode as well, going back to that. Sabrina was being loud at that first immunity challenge, and it annoyed people. So that is setting up for her downfall. So
yeah, for sure. We also get a quote from Sabrina where she says, "We're absolutely breathing out of our asses," which I don't think is a saying. I don't really know what she was trying to say, but
I guess maybe talking out of her. I guess. I don't know,
maybe but not breathing.
Yeah. That I've never heard that saying.
Yeah, this isn't some human centipede stuff.
Oh God. First human centipede reference on the Tribe of Nerds. That.
And hopefully the last.
Yeah, let's not do that again.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Some things I'm a big fan of, we kind of skipped over it, but at the start of the episode, Calaton gets fire, and Lawrence gives another great quote. In a few days, we'll get electricity, exit the Stone Age, set up our nuclear reactor over there. I just love that.
Is that your Lawrence impression?
No, I don't have an impression of Lawrence. I can't. If you want me to try, I don't want to offend you. No, I don't. I'll try to find it later. I'll try to find it.
It won't offend me. It'll offend Lawrence, but
I can't do. I can do a Lee. I mean, I can do an Irish. Can't do a British.
Yeah. So, and then we get the immunity challenge, which is this is where we get the one from 2017 where you have to stack the bamboo up and you have to paddle out and untie the knots. And this is, I believe, both Rach and Sabrina end up putting Lenana behind, and it's enough for them to not be able to come back against Calaton. So
yeah, I think Chris and Doug have to go out twice.
Yep. That's why I have because Sabrina can't do it, and the Christopher swaps in. The same with Rachel and Doug swaps in.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say about the challenges, I love how they have the title of the challenge, because I'm always curious on what the title is. Because sometimes, when I go to the Wikipedia, I'm like, I do not remember this being called this.
Yeah.
But then when they actually have it, it's it makes sense.
I think that's a really nice touch, actually. So I like this, the UK doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the same Australian touch of like having the big block letters for the tribes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So Lenana loses, and we do get the scene what Rachel has like the problem with something in her eye, and then immediately there's that next episode, but you like immediately I thought it was this episode because she gets her name written down by like Pegleg, because Pegleg doesn't like that she's appearing to be weak, and like you know I like Pegleg, but I just find it interesting that like she's getting called weak because she has something in her eye. Like
these Lenana tribals are rough. We do get our first hint of strategy though, because this is where we get Ashley, and I loved Ashley on this season. Like I wish we'd seen more of her as a player. But you know, she's as we talked about with Christopher, she hurt her hand giving everything she had in the challenge, and then it's like, oh, you're hurt, you gotta go. Like
it's like, no, you hurt.
They can't win. They can't win with these people.
Right.
Either they're not good enough, or they try hard and they're still not good enough.
Yeah.
So we see Ashley kind of pulling numbers together to save her ass, and Doug's in the middle position.
Yep, Doug's in the middle position. And you have Lee saying, let's get rid of one of the two blondes, because of course Lee is going to make them out to be nothing more than just the two blondes.
Lee is Russell if he didn't have any strategy. Like at least Russell was a strategic player. Like Russell is a polarizing figure, but like he played hard and he had like a lot of strategic chops in the game. But yeah, Lee doesn't have that side of it, but he does have the insulting women side of things.
Yes. Yep. So we do get to tribal council, and so Doug decides to vote out Sabrina. The others, I guess, were convinced or something. They split their votes like unintentionally, I think, or they were convinced. I don't know, but
I don't think they split the votes. I think they just voted for who they, wanted to, because this is like early day. Survivor.
That's probably what it is. Yeah. And so, Sabrina ends up going, and I think it was just a much more interesting vote than the first one, because I think we actually knew more of the dynamics of what were going on this vote. So
yeah, we saw like the two sides kind of coming up with their plans, and Sabrina seemed like a bit of a fan too. Like she was mentioning split vote, she was trying to bring people together and form an alliance. So she could have been an interesting player if she'd stayed, but I'm so glad Ashley was the one who stayed, because she was great.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I like Ashley as well. So like I think I'm glad Sabrina was the one going. It made for a nice like getting rid of like a big player, I guess, right away. So
yeah.
I just want to say this note. I don't remember what it is regarding, because I watched this like 2 weeks ago. But I have a note of a Sabrina quote. Rach said she was a trained vocalist. I don't know why I decided to write that down, but it must have been something.
Yeah, I think it was because like they thought she'd be able to hold her breath underwater or something, untying the knots. Yes,
there we go.
Yeah. And
that did not pan out.
No,
it's like I don't think just because you're a trained vocalist, I don't think that means you can hold your breath, because it's a totally different thing.
Right. All right. Well, Sabrina's gone. Episode 3. So this is where Lenana is going to lose again, and this is where Rachel is going to go in a split vote with Ashley, because they have no choice but to try to get the other one out. Of course, any other notes from this episode from you guys?
Yeah. So this is a huge episode.
Oh, the outpost. Outpost. Yes.
Yeah. We have the introduction to Ren, and we also get Ren going to the outpost. And the chaos that ensues from there. And Lawrence goes with her, is that right?
Yes, it's Lawrence and Ren.
Goes, but I think it's separate. It's almost like mirror, because he's like looking to the right, and then they're looking to the left.
Yeah, because I didn't know that until like halfway through the scene. I was like, why aren't they like talking to each other about this? And then I realized, no, they're separated. Yeah, it's not like a duo thing.
Yep. Yeah.
So question for you guys, what would you do in this position?
Ooh, that's interesting. I mean, I think I would want to get as much trust as possible, so I would probably make like a Lawrence decision and just get a big fish. I mean, yeah, you want to get an idol for sure, but like also I'm not great at lying, so I would rather just tell as much truths as I possibly can without hurting my own game that way. And then people won't like feel like they're being lied to or they're being betrayed. And the couple times I have to lie, then people still think I'm telling the truth. So
Okay, got it. So if we ever play with him, Michael, now we know he'll tell the truth most of the time, but there's gonna be one or two when he betrays us.
You know what I'd do? What were the options? There was one where you just get an idol, right?
No, there was a big fish, then there was a small fish, but then you get a clue that you have to share with somebody,
Or
and then
flip yourself.
then there's a baked potato and cheese, and you get the clue all to yourself.
What I'm doing in that situation, I'm taking the clue just for myself, and I'm throwing the potato in the woods. And I go back to tribe and say, me and Lawrence went out there and we had to do a challenge or do something, and I lost. And Lawrence got a reward.
Yeah, but you also have to be smart because Rin didn't know Lawrence was going.
Oh, what? Yeah, not specifically. I guess you could
See,
say like
already caught him in his lie.
From
Michael
each,
can't lie worth
they
shit.
sent someone from each tribe, and I didn't win whatever it was that I'd come up with that we had to do. And also by that point, you're getting an idol clue, and you can at least get the idol, and you're not having to share it with someone. So even if it does kind of start to blow up, you can get the idol and keep yourself safe. I feel like in that situation, I just want to get myself an idol. And like, if I go out there, I want to go out there and play the game. I don't just want to like, oh, well, I just want to make friends on the beach and get the big fish to make friends. Sorry, Lawrence.
Yeah.
So I think
this is why
you
should have been on. This is why you should have been on, because that would have been great. You just grab the potato and just chuck it.
Just chuck the potato. Yeah. I don't want a potato. I want an idol.
That's right. See, I probably would do what Lawrence did, take the big fish, but then I know there's an idol out there, so then I can look for it.
Right.
Yeah, no one ever finds the bloody. Oh, no, Doug does, but no one from Calaton does.
Yeah, I was gonna say Doug finds both of them, but of course the show cuts one of those out. So
it's just so stupid. Like it made Doug
check out our Doug interview if you want to hear that story.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Ren comes back to camp and immediately they get basically called out by Chris in a confessional of like, I don't think Ren is telling us the truth. Yeah, that's obviously then Lawrence is going to tell Chris things later on as well.
Yeah.
And so Chris is going to know for sure that's not the truth. So
yeah, this was terrible for Ren. Like, I feel like Ren was in a pretty good spot, and they took this idol clue, but it's fine if you get the idol, but unfortunately they get the clue, but then Doug comes in and takes the idol from underneath them. So it's like they end up with nothing, but they've lost trust in the tribe once it all starts to unwind. Damn cough. So yeah, it really, this was the beginning of the end of Ren's game, and unfortunately they seem like a really like interesting character and clearly a big fan. But yeah, this was the beginning of the end. Should have thrown the potato.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, I actually wanted to circle back to that, Michael. Knowing what we know now, that this idol is only good for 3 tribals, and even if you don't go, would you still chuck the potato if you knew that?
I mean, no, because it's stupid, and we'll get to those idol rules once we get there. But like, yeah, if I was in the game, I wouldn't know that production had decided to make a dumb decision for their first ever immunity idol on Survivor. Yeah, I wouldn't bother with it then. But yeah, I wouldn't have been to know at that point.
Speaking of the fish, I have a note that while eating the fish, Lee thanks Peg for the fish, not Ren, and then Peg goes, "No, thank Ren."
Yeah,
good job, Lee.
Good job, Peg. At least he.
I'm.
Yeah. And then earlier in the episode, Lee asks Chris if there's colluding. What the fuck do you mean? This is Survivor. Of course there's colluding.
Yeah. Again, good job, Lee. No, I'm just kidding.
But honestly, for Lee, Yeah, but honestly, for Lee, Michael pointed this out in our chat. He did get Ren's pronouns correct, so props on Lee for doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because we have this like these first few episodes where Lee's kind of been a bit, and then yeah, he uses Ren's correct pronouns. I was like, it's this like duality of Lee, and like, look, I don't want to just shit on Lee. Like, it's a edited show. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure he's a good guy, and we get to see when we get a bit later on, we see more of the human side of Lee when we get to his home life and we see stuff from that. So it's like, it's a show, and they all went out there and gave themselves to this show, and they get the edit that they get. But the things he said are the things he said.
Yeah. And we always need somebody to shit on during every season. We need a Jaden for Michael, Commander Steve for me, a Zach for everybody. We all
and a Lee for everybody. Yeah, perfect. All right, so yeah, then we get the Linenans losing this next immunity challenge, which one was this? Hot Pursuit. Yes, the Hot Pursuit classic Survivor challenge. And at first glance, you would think actually that Lenana would win something like this, but they ended up losing. And
because their strategy, while good, I think they did do it too early.
Yeah,
this was. I think if you can kind of keep your bags dry, I think someone mentioned it during the challenge, like, oh, their bags are wet. If you can keep them above water, that's going to help. And maybe if you drop off the weaker players and make a pretty, I feel like if you're going to do that strategy, you need to just book it. Like, it has to be get rid of people, and it's like, this is when we're going to make a run to catch up with them. But like, if you're just getting rid of those players and then still walking with these bags, you're just going to exhaust yourself. So yeah, it wasn't a strategy that worked out for them.
I also think that they should have gotten rid of the bags like near the end of the deep end, so then they'll be lighter when they hit the like shallow end, so then they can really because they were handing off like in the shallow end, so then those players still had to carry the bags through the deep end. And then I have a note here from Lee. I expected so much more from the team. And then Doug was the one carrying 3 bags. Christopher was like doing there was even a point where Doug tells Lee, I thought you were supposed to be in the front, because Doug keeps passing Lee.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. So this is where Rach is gonna get the boot. It's is this where Lee starts with the Airhead Barbie stuff, or does he not actually say that till later?
I don't think he says it before then, but we do get a pretty unsavory comment from Lee where he says it's not a sexist thing, but the guys are all stronger. And then the girls point out that Pegleg struggled in the challenge, and Lee says, I gave Pegleg a pass. So you're willing to give Pegleg the pass, but it's problematic. I don't like being negative about a player like consistently, but it's difficult. I do have one problem as well. For some reason, in this show, none of them say the chopping block. They keep saying the chopping board. My head's on the chopping board. It's not the chopping board. You're not cutting vegetables. It's the guillotine. The chopping block.
We're not cutting vegetables. That's the quote of the episode.
We're not cutting vegetables.
Thank you.
Right, well, now I'm going to have to try to steal your thunder and come up with a better quote later.
So any other words about Rach as she is the third person voted out?
Not on Rach, but in the run up to, partly Rach, but in the run up to this, the girls and Ren get together and are saying we don't want another female to be voted out of the game, but they don't do anything. Chris is involved in it as well, and it's just like, we don't want the game to go in this direction, but no one's willing to like put their heads out there and play hard to try and change it. So it's like, yes, kind of the game ended up going in this direction with the girls going, but it doesn't seem like they really fought that hard to fight their way out of that corner. And, you know, if they backed each other at this point, they still had options to try and bring someone in. And like, if they could mount numbers against someone, I feel like the more social players who were seeing the direction of things might have gotten bored with that. But it seems like they just went, well, we don't want to upset the apple cart, if that's the phrase. I think that's the phrase.
Yeah, that is.
Or rock the boat. So they just kind of went, okay. And actually, Chris talked about this, how he kind of regrets not going to bat for Ashley at this point. And yeah, like you can put the blame on whoever you want, but like if you want something in the game and you want to save someone, you got to really fight for it. And nobody fights for it here.
Yeah, can you imagine if like this was one of the good US seasons or one of the good Australian Survivor seasons and like Lee gets blindsided in round 3? Like that'd be insane.
Oh, he definitely would have been Titans versus Rebels. He would have been like one of the first ones gone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
He would have been
in the Nathan Cuddle crew,
or Tobias,
Yeah.
All right. So Rach is gone and episode 4.
I have one more thing about episode 3.
Yeah.
This is when Tinuke says Lawrence's morning skinny dip is a highlight of everyone's day. And then it just cuts to Lawrence naked staring at the rocks like a fucking psycho. And it's just creepy.
Yeah.
It's so funny. All right, and so episode 4, this is our one non-elimination of this season. It's not something I guess you would expect from a 16-episode season, but I understand why they did this to meet that episode quota, because every other episode has an elimination. So, this is where Leilani is going to get swapped to the other tribe, but before that, any other things about this episode?
This is when Doug finds the idol.
Yes. Yep. In front of Peg Leg.
Yep. And it's only valid for the next 3 tribal councils, even if he doesn't go.
Yeah, that's a really dumb decision. So,
like, it's just it's a terrible production decision, and it's clearly a decision made because they want the idol to be played. It's like, okay, we'll put a time limit on it. Then they're gonna play it rather than just let it expire. So they want the audience to see how these idols work. But then Doug doesn't end up going to a tribal council while his idol is valid. So it just expires itself. So what's the point? This could have so easily been solved with one extra word. I'm a Taskmaster fan, and little Alex Horn is very good about putting in specific rules and exact wording so that he gets the result he wants. And production, this one it.
Yeah. So Doug finds the idol. Anything else?
The reward was the trench run, which is like an Australian staple. This is also where I noticed that Rand is always wearing knee braces. And I don't know if that's a good idea on Survivor because it shows that you're not like, the strongest and you may be a little bit weak. So it could put a target on you. Because I remember while this season was airing, Shannon, Gus, and King George were recapping it, and King George even brought this up, where he's like, if I saw that, I would vote out Ren just because it has an easy target, just because of the knee braces. So.
Oh wow, that's not necessarily something I pick up on. Interesting. Anything else? Or are you ready to hit the decision of Leilani getting voted to the other side?
We get Christopher's introduction in this episode.
Yes.
So we get a late introduction of one of the stars of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a late introduction to someone who's going to be, our runner-up of the season, co-runner-up. They both get the same votes, Leilani and Chris. We get that. We also get Matthew's introduction in this episode,
which is a late introduction to the winner.
For our winner.
Yeah, that's crazy that they both don't get introduced till this same episode.
If this was Australian Survivor, they would be going, oh.
Yeah. Matthew talks about how he's worked more jobs than the years he's been alive. So good on Matthew.
Or maybe keep a job. I don't know.
We also have a confessional from Matthew where he says that he's never felt euphoria. And I think, oh, Matthew, you've never felt euphoria? Why?
I mean, just look into Michael's eyes and then you can feel it, according to Rachel. So
Yeah.
Is the restraining order still active?
It's for the rest of my life.
Actually, no. It was only the restraining order was only good for 3 tribal councils. So,
all right. So now we get to the decision to send Leilani the other side. They find out.
They don't know. Wait, do they know? Well, yeah, they know, right?
They know once they get to tribal council.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't remember if it was after the votes or before.
Well, and I mean, Leilani's name was coming up as well as Shai's, obviously. And so, I mean, the decision here, I feel like they're sending Leilani over anyways, knowing that because of the fact that she is loyal to them. And like Tinuke knows that she can trust Leilani. But it's definitely an interesting decision because we've also seen this twist in Australian Survivor of like, people get sent over for different reasons than, oh, this person was, I guess, weaker physically than others. But what are your guys' thoughts on this decision?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a nothing tribal council.
Yeah.
And yeah, Leilani going, it does end up being quite a content move for the rest of the season because she does stir up a lot of stuff in Lanena. And this worked out perfectly for Leilani because if she stays on that tribe, I think she's if they go to a few, she's probably going to be in the firing line. She ends up finding a good little spot for herself in Lanena and making good relationships that are going to help her come merge. So yeah, she should thank them for sending her, I guess.
Yeah.
I got nothing. Yeah, I got nothing. It's like it was pretty obvious, it was going to be her. So
Right. All right. Episode 5. And so there's I'm interested in the vote out of Rachel that happens in this episode because I think there were some interesting confessionals. But before that, we do get Rachel and Chris headbutting each other in the reward challenge that immediately gets stopped instead of moving on to a different matchup, which I found to be a weird decision by production. Like, I don't think the entire challenge should just get stopped because of an injury that just ends up happening.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is the UK and they're used to their football ending in draws, so I guess that was why.
Yeah, but in that position, actually, I was going to my point. I proved myself wrong. I was going to say both teams don't end up getting like the reward, but they do. They get a point each. But yeah, like in that position, just go another round. Well, like, why are you just ending it there? I don't know. It was just dumb. We've seen so many like physical challenge end in like someone being taken out of the challenge and people getting hurt. Survivor, just do another round and have a winner.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to do the challenge again, like it's like an example of in US Survivor Samoa and Heroes versus Villains, they got rid of a skirmigan brawl because Mike Rossi and James Clement got injured. So they got rid of it after those seasons. And
I call that game murder ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I found this interesting, especially, so like Rachel has like the big gash on her forehead, and so like she has her head wrapped up. And I don't know if that contributed to the decision at Tribal Council, but I found it interesting because of the fact, like, I think there's confessionals saying that she's in the Majority Alliance at one point, and it was very interesting that she then ends up getting taken out here, like unanimous or almost unanimously, because Jess votes the wrong way as well. But
yeah, we don't get enough in these early episodes to give us an idea of like where the tribal lines are drawn and who's like with who. So yeah, it's we just don't see enough of it, and 90% of the conversations up until the end of episode 5. Once we get through with episode 5, things take a turn for the better. Right. But yeah, all the conversations are just challenge strengths. I think I sent in our group chat, take a shot every time someone mentions challenge in this pre-merge, because Jesus Christ, it is non-stop. I don't care about how strong someone is in a challenge. They don't matter. Relationships matter.
Yeah, well, and Rachel seemed to be strong anyways, so that's also like what confused me about the decision to boot her is like if they're so focused on strength, I was like, did you guys confuse strength for because she got taken out by a headbutt, or like it was just like I was so confused.
Yeah, there is definitely something else there that we probably didn't see.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean her Rachel and Jess do try to vote Lawrence out because they think it's going to be a split between Shy and Lawrence. So because the whole outpost thing. And so it's very, very interesting. And again, like Jess's decision is going to come back to bite her in a couple of episodes, that she has voted against Lawrence and Shy the last two like actual vote outs.
Yeah.
So
I do have a note here that Tinuke wants Rachel out since she isn't as malleable and isn't as strong as Shy. So maybe Tinuke was able to get the votes onto Rachel for that reason.
I missed that. Yeah, that I guess makes a little more sense. And I guess from Tinuke's perspective, again, if Shy is going to be a target from other people, it's going to be better to keep him. So
we also in this we get the backstory of Rachel, which is it's so sad, where we get the story of husband taking his own life, and that she's out there, doing this for her kids, and it's this real, heartfelt introduction to her. Sadly, on the episode where she goes home, and it's just a tragic story, and like, how can you not root for her at that point? I was like, no, let us stay in, please.
Yeah. That was unfortunate too. I remember that now. Well, unfortunately, Rachel is the, I guess, fourth person out because Leilani obviously is still in the game. So, any other thoughts? Are we ready to hit, I think, where the season starts to take off from here?
I have a couple. Just when they win the reward, they each get the comfort items. There's a shot of Doug like sitting in his chair. And I don't think I've ever seen someone on Survivor just look so content and happy. He's just like sat in his chair, just looking around. There's like, he was like,
well, speaking of Doug being happy, I have a note during the immunity challenge when Lee and Christopher are throwing the hammers to win. There's a slow-mo shot of Doug in the background, just jumping up and down with the biggest smile on his face.
All right.
There's also my last note on this is that at Tribal Council, Jess is surprised that there was more than one plan being discussed coming into Tribal Council. You're on Survivor.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're surprised there's more than one conversation happening?
Yeah, she's not gonna figure out she's on Survivor till her boot episode. So.
I still don't know if she knows. No, I'm kidding.
All right. Well, let's hit episode 6, and this is where the swap is going to happen, of course, and the Ren boot. But let's talk about the swap. So it's a lot like, or it's similar to Survivor Africa, how they did it back then for the first ever swap, and having 3 people go on this journey, but they get to discuss, and 2 people from each tribe are going to swap. I like this twist.
Yeah, I loved it too.
Yeah. Bringing it back to Survivor Africa. I mean, I don't know if that was the intention of being like, oh, you remember Survivor Africa in the US, but no, it was I don't know, the production, as much as like we've said some of the couple like really bad decisions, like I don't know, most of their twists aside from that, like the outposts that we talked about and like everything else are actually pretty good. So
yeah, I really like this. I'm sure it had to be a deliberate thing of it being this, up to this point, being a very old school season of Survivor, to have a very old school style swap.
Mm-hmm.
And I also like, because in Africa, isn't it? There's no choice involved. It's just the 2 that
it's just a 3. It's just a 3.
Yeah, the 3 in that. Yep.
They send 3 and then
it's like they go, and then there's also like a discussion that has to take place, which adds a bit of a game element into it. And like, love that Doug was willing to, take that risk. And, had they gone to the first Tribal Council, they would have had an idol still valid for 1. But just to go out, just to like play hard, this is a brilliant opportunity to go to another tribe and make new connections over there that can help you come merge. And Pegleg 2 didn't seem to need much convincing. So I think the player in him also saw the possibilities of going on a tribe swap and what that could do for his long game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I think it was during Doug's interview where he said that if they sent Hannah, then she would probably get voted out because they were voting out women on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Both sides.
Yeah, both sides. Yeah. The season was unfortunately not very good for the women. So
Yeah, but for the swap, this is something I hope U.S. Survivor does because they don't usually do swaps now. But this will be like a nice little fun way of, even though they still do the stupid 3 tribes of 6,
yeah.
like maybe send 2 people from each tribe to meet up, and then one has to, or something.
Yeah, I'd like to see this as well. Like it's just a way better, way more interesting way to do the swap. So I believe Calaton is Shy, Matthew, and Tinuke, and obviously Tinuke and Matthew switch, and it's Doug, Pegleg, and who was the and Hannah, yeah, and obviously Doug and Pegleg switch. So yeah, very very interesting here. And so then we're gonna get to the new Lenana tribe ends up losing, and this is where Chris and obviously Chris told us that he didn't want Ren to go here, but that he kind of went along with it, and this is where Ren is going to get blindsided.
Yeah. Before we get to that, let's talk about the immunity one. This is the shoulder the load challenge.
Yes,
where,
yeah.
where Chris looks like a rock star, and then this is something that I told you guys about that pissed me off. Joel makes the decision to call out Jess. I'm sure production or medical did, but just have them put on one more weight and then let her drop. Just like having the host say, no, you have to give up now. Sorry. It's like, oh, I did not like that.
Yeah, I didn't remember that they specifically told her to drop, but I know that she was struggling, and then
yeah, Joel's like, I'm calling it. It's like, no, you're not. If that was me, like, I was like, the hell you are.
I would be pissed.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't really understand the decisions with how to end these challenges or end someone's. It's just bizarre.
Apparently I need to watch more football. What?
If she can't take anymore, she can drop it.
Exactly.
That's her choice. Like,
yeah. And then Chris has one of the most dramatic drops, which I mean, obviously, they're him and Jess definitely overheated or whatever it was. It seemed like that was the issue. But it's funny even when something serious happens, it's just so dramatic.
So fun story that this. I was trying to get everyone I could to watch Survivor UK when it came out over here, and someone I work with, he started watching it. He got to this episode, and this is where he stopped because he was like, "Oh, I got to that bit where that guy dropped out of the challenge. It was so dramatic. It's so fake." And I was like, "It's not fake." But yeah, he may be over. He was maybe a bit dramatic about it, but he was like, "Nah, I'm done."
Yeah. Also, I'm just going to bring this up now. I told you guys this before. Christopher is a very attractive man. Like when he has and it's like all of his abs are showing. I'm like, damn, I need to be a singer.
Yeah, I won't lie. Yeah, definitely a good looking rooster.
Yeah,
as the LP called George.
Yeah. So yeah, and then this decision to get rid of Ren. So Ladena is at 8 people at the swap, and so they have a I guess 5-3 lead, right? And so they're willing to sacrifice Ren here, which I mean, I probably would have taken out one of the Calatons here. I mean, I get you don't trust Ren, but Ren seemed to still clearly be loyal to original Lenana. So I don't know that there just wasn't any indication that they would flip this early. So I don't know. I feel like it ended up working out, I guess, but well, I mean, you could argue that it definitely didn't because it reduced one of Lenana's numbers going into the merge later. But
yeah, this was tough. Where it's like I get their mentality of they are assuming that Ren has the idol. So if they're gonna take them out, it has to be a blindside when they're not expecting it. Unfortunately, they didn't have the idol, so it was there was never that threat. But I think if a Calaton goes here, maybe the game shakes up because the implosion of Lenana is destructive for everyone involved, even Chris, who ends up surviving it. But it's this is kind of the beginnings of that.
Yeah. I'm a little shocked that someone like Lee wasn't pushing loyalty. But also, I mean, as long as I guess obviously Ren is they them, but pushing for a non-man to go home, like so. Uh, all right. So with Ren gone, we move into episode 7, and obviously one of the most entertaining moments in the season, where Chris is going to attempt to throw the challenge, as we talked with him about. So it's just such a funny scene. So going through this. So at one point they're pushing the raft down to the beach. Chris like starts like dancing. Then at one point he's putting the mask on. He starts doing cartwheels, or he does one cartwheel in the middle of the challenge, and then he'll like hold the boxes up and like do this, and then he'll throw one away. It's just it's so funny how the great lengths he goes to in this challenge. And so and I'm just shocked that nobody actually looked over and noticed that Chris was doing this stuff.
Yeah, he was just like in the background.
Yeah, when Doug said he had no idea until he watched the episode, it's like, holy crap. I mean, I guess they are super focused, but still it's just like, I feel like I would notice somebody doing cartwheels on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just, I don't know, but like it's so funny. And obviously Chris talked about how he had let everybody but Lee know beforehand that this was happening, or he talked to Hannah and Ashley about it. But I don't know. It's just it was an interesting decision. I think Chris definitely was making the right one for Lenena. And it unfortunately didn't work out here. Although ends up technically working. It should work out because Doug and Pegleg do stay safe.
Yeah, if Chris had known that Doug and Pegleg were going to be absolutely fine on that new tribe, like he could have avoided himself so much hassle if he'd known how things were going to go. Also, going back, we have the Indian food reward challenge, and we have Joel doing his litany of Indian puns, like Indian food puns. I didn't make any notes of them. I hope you've got some, but
I remember him, but I didn't make those. Yeah, because I was so focused on, if I'm on Survivor, I don't want Indian. I love Indian food, but I do not want Indian food as a reward when all I've been eating is rice and beans.
It's probably not going to help you out or do anything for your digestion out there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so Calaton still loses, and we're gonna get to Tribal. I know, like, there's some fun stuff beforehand. I know, Matt, you brought up, like, and I noticed this too, is like Nathan asks Jess like what they should do, and she's like, "Don't put my effing name down." It's like, that was a funny moment. I'm just like, oh, Jess actually is realizing some stuff about this game now. And so, yes, it ends up being that it's going to come down to Doug and Pegleg trying to get Lawrence and Shy to flip with them. Although, like, I mean, Doug was in a swing vote position, and then Jess and Nathan decided to try to turn it on Doug last minute. But yeah, so they get Shy and Lawrence to help them blindside Jess here. So any thoughts on this?
Jess has like this really half-assed attempt to speak to Doug and say, would you be willing to write down Shy's name? But it's so late in the day, and it's clearly the first time she's really having these strategic conversations with him about it, because he's just like, I don't buy that this is what's happening. And especially going into the chaos that's going to come when the new Lenena sees the result of this tribal. Like, Doug and Pegleg had absolutely no choice here. It's either you join with Shy and Lawrence and take out Jess, or you tie a vote with Doug potentially going home, because Jess and Nathan weren't interested in voting out Shy and Lawrence at that point. Clearly, they put their names on Doug.
I mean, this is interesting, and I absolutely feel that Shy and Lawrence are justified in this move, obviously, because of the fact that Jess
they're on the bottom.
And Jess has put both their names down. So,
and like, that's it's a tricky balance of things where I feel like Shy gets very unfairly blamed for the reasons why this move happened because of the way that the rest of the game had played out to this point. Yeah, Shai was in a bad position on his old tribe. Two new people come in, and he makes a big move to improve his position in that tribe. Maybe if they just took out Nathan at that point, maybe a lot of this could have been avoided.
Yeah, I mean, but then like Jess has already been 100% gunning for him the whole time. So
Yeah,
like he's in a bad tough position either way, and like I will get to it in this next episode shortly, but I agree with you, Michael, and like I said it in our chat. I'm like I feel a little uncomfortable by what people are saying about Shy here because like he literally I just haven't seen any indication of him being like this deceitful line person. He's
no,
just trying to keep himself
Yeah.
in the game.
It's
So
just because he was like a super fan, and I think it was
yeah,
Doug who said on this season, if you were a super fan, you were like an automatic target.
yeah,
So I think
yeah,
that
right
made
beyond
it.
Calico.
yeah,
And also he's a fan and he's playing the game. I don't think he's playing like super hard, and he's not being like
right.
super aggressive in his gameplay. He's just playing. Um, but also he just comes off to me as, I don't know him, but he comes off as quite like a shy, no pun
Yeah,
intended, introverted person. So, and I think people very much misjudged him and saw those kind of less confident parts of his personality as him being like aloof or not very communicative, got there. And yeah, I think he said at the beginning of his game, the social side of things, it's not his strong suit. It's not where he feels comfortable. And I feel like he had a good grasp on what the game was, and unfortunately he just couldn't make his social game work within that. And but he almost made merge, and so he's not quite dateable in the survivor lore, but he should still be proud as a survivor fan that he got out there and made it just pre-merge.
Yeah, he's not dateable, but he is swipeable. So because we got just close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in some seasons he would have made merge because he got 12th. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so I mean let's get right into that then. So like the comments that were made about Shy, so you have Nathan then immediately after that vote, yeah, saying he's deceitful, disloyal, basically saying he's not a good person and in those terms, which is just very out there. Just I didn't like those comments from Nathan. And then we get to the immunity challenge, and like everybody, the women are shocked to see Jess gone. All the Calotons are shocked to see Jess gone, and you basically have Shy explaining it, and then Leilani's being like bashing him right then and there, and then you get back to camp after the challenge, and Leilani's like, Shy is someone who would just stab you in the face to do anything to get far in this game. Like, that's a bit excessive, Leilani.
Yeah. I also, Lawrence doesn't help matters at that challenge where he says the quiet part out loud. He's like, I don't want you to think we're misogynist.
Yeah,
you're not helping.
And then Leilani's like, but you said it or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, jeez.
Speaking of Leilani, we also start this episode with her letting us know how sexually frustrated she is on the island.
I have that note because Chris asked her, "How are you doing? Uncomfortable in bed, sexually frustrated, and dreaming of M&M peanuts."
Yeah, it's so funny.
All right then. All right. So
can we get to my next controversial segment?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, go.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Do you want to spend 14 minutes on it?
I will not spend 14 minutes on it, and neither should they have. So this is where we get letters from home, and we spend 14 minutes. I counted them. 14 minutes of the runtime of this episode reading letters from home. I understand for the players out there that, they're missing home. They get their letters. That's great. If your episode needs to be taken up by that big a percentage on them just letting seeing their letters from home, then not much else must be going on, because we don't need to see that. I don't need. They literally every single castmate had their letter read out either fully or partially across both tribes. It's like, we don't need this. Come on, get to the good stuff. One good thing about it, though, is so we've talked very, somewhat negatively about Lee. This is where we get Lee getting his letter from home, and we see the more personal side of him and him talking about his relationship with his mother and his girlfriend, and seeing the more like human side of Lee in this moment. So I thought that was a nice, to have that moment for him as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess Lee has a little bit more of a human side, so I can respect.
I honestly thought you were going to say, "Well, I guess Lee is a person." I was like, "Yes, yes."
That too.
Well, speaking of Lee, we have to talk about this is the big argument between Lee and Christopher.
Yes.
Because Lee says, "You put the cracks in the foundation, we did it," which I actually thought was like a good quote, a good logical thing. So
yeah, I get that, but like, yes. So Chris told us that obviously like Lee was the last to find out about throwing the challenge. And I guess you guys did say in the chat that Lee does talk about how like he would have been okay with the plan, I guess, of throwing it, but that he didn't like how it was told him last minute, right? Or
he didn't like how obvious it was. So I actually agree with Lee's sentiment on this, where I don't agree with the personal arguments and attack side of things. But Lee, it's for someone who's been so heavily pro-challenge and about the challenge, he's not actually against the idea of throwing the challenge and taking out the Calotons. He just didn't like that it was this big song and dance, literally, from Chris cartwheeling his way around the challenge. So yeah, he seemed to be just wanting to do it in a more subtle way, and he wasn't against the idea, which I don't disagree with that, but it certainly didn't need to turn into like a very personal argument where he's calling Chris out.
Yeah, and then Chris's confessional about it, we're like, Lee wanted to do it because Lee thinks he's so amazing.
So amazing, yeah.
It's so good. All right. So we talked about Shy enough. Shy's boot enough. So let's get to the merge.
I just want to say the immunity challenge, one of the quickest challenges ever.
Yes.
Maybe that's why we had 14 minutes of letter reading, just because this challenge was so fast.
Gone like that. Done.
We also have a really fun quote from Tinuke in this episode where she says, "I'm going to wipe their asses."
Yes.
No, wait, that's not what I mean.
Yes, I knew that quote was in the season. I didn't know if it was till the merge, but like it's so funny.
So good.
Well, now we're on to episode 9. We're on to the merge and the auction, and we get to say goodbye to our favorite player, Lee. So let's talk about this auction here, of course, because a lot of stuff happens with obviously Chris getting the clue to the idol and getting the extra vote. Any other memorable stuff about this auction?
Go ahead, Michael. I know what you want to say. Oh, sorry.
I have one thing before we get to the auction. When we get to merge, we get Joel saying, "Drop your tribe colors." They're called buffs, Joel. Yeah. He always calls them tribe colors. Yeah. They are called buffs. Get your terminology right.
Yeah. And speaking of the merge, Nathan says merge is when my game plan comes alive. Well, still, just like Sue's big move, I'm still waiting.
Oh, Nathan.
Yeah. So in this auction, there's like really weird, like monetary divisions. So like within Survivor, globally, we're used to like each person has 500 of whatever the currency is, and then in this they have like, I can't even remember how much it is, but they're going up like 2,500, and I'm just like, people going up so high, and I was like, I've completely lost track of how much money these people have. It's crazy.
I didn't like it. This is like how in Survivor 45, when they did the auction, they were able to find money. So they all had different amounts of money. So it's just confusing to try to keep track of who had what. And, just make it 500. It's not that hard, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
400 for a toothbrush is what is spent. I think, does Lee get the toothbrush, I think?
No, Christopher gets it, but then he shares it with, Lee. Lee gets it. and then shares with somebody. I think I don't remember.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Lee definitely pays for it, and then I think he gets to give it to someone else. So someone gets a free toothbrush.
So he gives it to whoever was bidding with him.
I think it was to Nathan.
Maybe I don't.
I was thinking either Nathan or Doug. It's one of the guys.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So
I have a UK question. What is a bacon buddy?
Oh,
bacon buddy.
Yeah.
What do you think it is?
Like a bacon sandwich, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was hoping you'd have no idea, and it was going to be something crazy you suggested.
Oh no! Well, I mean, I saw a sandwich, but I just didn't.
True.
Yeah.
A bacon buddy.
Okay.
We also get the chip buddies are huge over here. So like our version of chips in like
fries.
No,
so basically, okay.
Not fries. Fries and chips are very different.
Okay.
Fries like McDonald's fries, like the little thin like things.
Oh, okay.
But chips are like a much thicker.
Yeah, thick. Okay, so for us it'd be like steak fries, kind of. I think is what he's. Yeah, because fish and chips, like
you're right.
Yeah, fish and chips have what we consider fries.
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying okay.
Yeah. America's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. UK is weird.
We came first. We're allowed to be weird.
Yeah, but then we beat you. Speaking of weird things, Doug and Pegleg get the beer, and then Lawrence cheers by drinking the ketchup.
Oh,
that was funny. Yeah,
I'm not drinking ketchup. Like that's gross, honestly.
Well, that's not the grossest thing we have this season, because I'll talk about when we do get to the fish and chips with Christopher.
Can't remember off the top of my head, but
I'll just say now,
when we get it.
He holds the box up and lets all the grease and liquid and gravy go into his mouth through the box, and Tinuke is like, "Oh my god."
All right, interesting. All right. Well, let's get to then the immunity challenge and the first individual immunity, and this is where they're gonna let Doug win. Tinuke and Leilani and Chris are all gonna let Doug win the challenge, right?
Yeah, should have been a bit of a red flag for Lee when the second he dropped out of the challenge. Everyone was like,
cheering.
"Okay, we're done."
Yeah. I thought that was interesting, but like I completely get again like why Doug is gonna feel comfortable here, because 3 people literally just let him have individual immunity, and he's like successfully split up 2 pairs in the game, and clearly like he doesn't think Calaton's gonna come back together. So like I completely get Doug's position here at this point, like why he felt so comfortable.
And look, it came down to Tinuke just being a very, very good player of the game. And you know, if Tinuke wasn't there, I think Doug is in a fantastic position. But I think maybe it's just underestimating like how savvy a player that Tinuke is. We haven't talked about Tinuke much, but she like across this season, she has been like a fantastic social and strategic player. She is so. I think she's probably the most well-rounded player in this season, because we'll talk about when we get to her blind side. But like, I think if she doesn't go at that point, she makes it all the way to the end. Like she was so well connected, and she's such like a savvy mind in the game in terms of dynamics and where people sit. Like she's like the complete package. She's like a Haley type. Player of like she has it all.
Well, I mean, if you even think she wins that the holding on to the pole challenge, right? And so like I think she, even like Haley, she's going to be good at these types of challenges where she has to hold on for an extended period of time too. So so like Tinuke is just
she's like a Haley or a Parvati.
I was going to mention, as soon as you mentioned the poll, I was thinking, the Parvati challenge. Absolutely. Tinuke is fantastic, and I can't speak highly enough about her. And I'm jumping ahead too much, but yes, let's get back to where we're at.
We'll get there. Chris and Ashley do find the idol that Chris is going to hold on to. Which he did talk about that as well.
And before that, Lee gives us a great, like I actually think is a really good quote. Christopher and Ashley are trying to be the CEOs without their master's degree. It's like that's actually like a really good quote.
Yeah,
It's a funny line. Yeah,
that is actually a funny line. As opposed to the non-funny line that he ends up going with at Tribal Council. So we do get to Tribal Council, and this is where we're going to get the big fight of Lee calling out Chris and Ashley, and we get the Airhead Barbie and Curly Chris.
I do think Curly Chris is funny. I will say. Airhead Barbie, not so much.
Yeah.
You know what? Like, of all the things you could say about Ashley, Airhead is the absolute last on the list. She has been a savvy player from the beginning. Like,
absolutely. But this is going to really torpedo Chris and Ashley's games at this point. Because obviously, Chris's relationships are going to take a dive, and people are not going to trust either of them, and especially Ashley here. So,
it's a complete destruction of both their games. Ashley ends up going next, and then essentially Chris is just in a no-win position. His game is completely blown up. I also there's a nice little moment where Joel tells the cast that from this tribal council, whoever's voted out will start making up the jury. And Doug just has like the biggest smile on his face. He's so happy that like, oh, we're a jury. Like, it's like it's a really fun like fan moment.
I think he says wicked.
Yeah, wicked.
So yes. Anything else? Obviously, we get, as we said, we get this fight, and this is where Lee is going to get voted out in a 7-4 vote.
Yep, 7-4.
Yeah. Yeah, over Ashley. Yeah.
I just have this quote from Lee before Tribal. I'm not causing drama. Trying not to cause drama.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. That's not going to hold up well, buddy. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're saying goodbye to Lee at this point, but we're not saying goodbye to having to talk about him because he might be on the jury, but he certainly is still an active presence, as we're going to get into.
Yeah, is this the first time in Survivor history we're really getting someone who is breaking the rules and talking
openly?
And actively talking loudly at tribal councils from the jury bench. So
well, I mean, we also have Dante in Return of the Outcast for South Africa, which is even more annoying.
We're gonna get to Dante because I have thoughts on Dante. But
he is my Lee. Like, I know you don't like Lee. It's like Dante is just the one that's like no.
I didn't like Dante either, but we'll get to South Africa. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll be doing that next.
Speaking of Lee, I looked it up. He did not vote correctly once his entire game.
I said that he's always voted for a woman, or in the case of Matthew, he didn't vote for a woman to win, and then he's never voted correctly in his Survivor career, which is insane.
Yeah, that's especially with how this game started off, where it's like very by the numbers, like not getting one vote correct even by accident. It's like almost impossible.
It's almost impressive.
I don't know how he managed that.
He's not a good player.
Right. We know that.
That's your line, Jake. I love that you always, whenever we have like a question about a player that's not very good, you always just say they're not a good player.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he really isn't. We know this. Yeah,
No,
it's insane. I mean, we're going to keep track of other people that I will call not good players as we go through South Africa as well. But
oh my God, that's going to run up the bill, man. That's gonna be, there's a lot.
Yeah.
I have one final note on this episode is during Tinuke's voting confessional where she holds up Lee's name, she says, "Thank you for bringing Chris and Ashley's game to light," which is a fantastic Savage Tinuke voting confessional, and it absolutely did do that for better, for worse. Well, for worse for the players involved.
Yep. Well, goodbye, Lee. Wish we wouldn't have to hear from you ever again in a season, but it's not going to be the case. All right. Episode 10. So this is where Ashley is going to go, unfortunately. And so we get Ashley and Chris trying to do damage control, and unfortunately it isn't going to get them anywhere. But anything else before we get to the immunity challenge?
Yes. Peg leg, you're going to be happy with this one. Peg leg does a dirty Harry. He does the dirty Harry move of putting himself in the firing line and saying, "I don't mind taking a couple of votes," and as being the fake plan in order to get the split vote onto Chris and Ashley. So once again, I've managed to get dirty Harry into the
For
podcast.
a second there, I honestly thought you were going to say Peg leg made up a kid, and I was like, I do not remember this at all.
No.
I'm just gonna say though, I said it in the chat though. I don't think Pegleg is a bad Survivor player.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, he was actually like he had some good instincts. Like it's just when you have players like Chris who takes up a lot of screen time, Doug and Tinuke, it's like not everybody can be the best.
Right, but like Pegleg is obviously pretty solid at challenges. He's gonna win immunity in this episode in the last gasp. Which makes sense because I mean, what Pegleg's been in the water his whole life.
Yeah, so, he's a surf instructor. Yeah. Like if UK kept going, and then we had an all-stars, even though Michael's already pre-gamed, even though he's never been on the show, Pegleg would have been the fourth choice of this season, and I would love to see him play.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I Pegleg should return for an all-stars for sure.
I think Pegleg played like it wasn't a flashy game, but it's a good game. Like it's not something that's like an exciting TV product like a Chris or a George or these kind of like flashy players. But he had a very like solid game of understanding dynamics and making moves that made sense for his game.
Yeah, I would actually put him as like Tina in Australian Outback, where it wasn't flashy, but like all the right things were there.
Yeah, I mean, up until I think him and Hannah should have made a different decision at like final 6, but I think up until that point, I do think Pegleg's making the right decisions.
Yeah.
So he does win the last gasp challenge. He does beat Matthew right at in the end.
Matthew and Tinuke. But Matthew was like the left.
Yeah.
And he shows a lot of respect to Matthew at the tribal council day the way he's like, this young kid, I've had like a lifetime of experience in the water and he was right up there with me. So that's like a nice moment. It's kind of one of the first moments Matthew has is like the kind of spotlight on him.
Can I also point out Pegleg, I think, has a couple different like legs because he literally he has the British flag at one point, and then he has the orange one. I don't know what the exact design is, but
I would assume so because you gotta switch them out, and then if one like breaks or something,
he's got to, because when he gets voted out, he's obviously wearing one, and he also has the British flag leg under his arm when he's taking his torch up. Yeah, so he has two out there.
Maybe if they need another one, they could have taken a machete and taken the immunity idol, and then just like carved it out, and there you go.
The bejeweled leg.
Yeah.
All right. Then we're gonna get Ashley going because Chris is gonna figure out that him and Ashley are obviously on the bottom, and so he's gonna need to play the idol for himself. And unfortunately, that means they split the votes and they got rid of Ashley here. But as you guys said, Ashley was very, very savvy. I just think things didn't work out with the cast she was with or the tribe she was with, more specifically at the beginning, and then.
And there was no way to prevent this because even if Christopher played the idol for her, he goes. So it's kind of like a lose-lose.
It was kind of the Dirty Harry. Matty Wahlberg. Tribal council where it's like all you can do is save yourself, but your ally is going to go. We also have something very reminiscent to Titans versus Rebels in this episode where we have Tinuke wanting Chris out because then Ashley will have no one left to turn to but her, which is very reminiscent of the Ferris Kirby kind of wanting to take out Eileen and remove that wedge to bring them closer together. So I thought that was a very good move from Tinuke. Obviously, Chris plays the idol and cancels that plan, but I thought that was a solid plan by Tinuke. And I think that's absolutely what would have happened. I think Ashley would have completely fallen back into Tinuke's kind of group, and maybe Tinuke doesn't go from that point.
Yeah. I mean, Ashley, I think of the women on this season, I honestly think it was Tinuke and then Ashley. I would have said that those were the top two female players on the season. What Well, and of course we have to talk about our disrespectful moment of Lee and his moment at Tribal Council where you took out the king, but his hitmen are gonna be there too.
The king who has not voted once right all season. The king.
Yeah.
Yeah, like honestly, if I was a player, I'd have been so pissed. And like I would have been having very frank conversations with production of like, you need to sort this out because it is completely against the rules. Survivor's a very gray area kind of game where the players can do almost whatever they want. But like when you're out the game and you're on the jury, it's not a gray area. You don't influence the game. And it completely throughout this just destroys Chris's chances of actually winning the game. It's so egregious, and like I didn't like him as a player, but like this on top of that is like you're dragging this post merge down by influencing the play. Like if Lee went before merge, I think this post merge is potentially a very different game.
Yeah, it's very, very potentially. I mean, I'm sure even more stuff got said by Lee at tribal councils and stuff that didn't make the cut. So based on this one. So
yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
All right. So yeah, Ashley's gonna go here, and we're gonna unfortunately have to say goodbye to Doug in this episode 11.
Our little Doug. Underdog.
Yes, our underdog. Yeah, this was shocking at the time of watching it, because I mean, I did say, I think when I picked Doug as my winner pick, I'm like, he's either going to win this game or he's going to be this shocking, like, middle of the merge blindside that no one sees. Like, he's going to be like the Rupert blindside in Pearl Islands, where, like, everybody loves this guy watching, and, like, clearly everybody out there actually did love Doug. But
yeah. I like Doug. I did not like Rupert. Wow, I never was a fan of Rupert.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just like the fan base on that one, but I'm comparing to like a blindside that is like I mean, I guess that kind of vote is going to be actually the Tinuke vote, but this is also pretty big.
Two like big ones back to back, yeah. And also for people who maybe didn't watch this go out live, the way this season was airing, it was one episode on the Saturday night and one episode on the Sunday night.
So it was these two.
So it was like what was the winners at War one? Was it Parvati and Sandra or Parvati?
Yes,
that was one episode, but
same kind of back to back heartbreak of like, so Doug Blindside was on the Saturday night and then Tinuke's was on the Sunday night. So it was like the two big players going in one weekend, which was a horrible weekend.
It was a horrible. I mean, which was worse, that or England never winning?
Oh my! The deafening silence. Oh my god! All right. Well, but I mean, I guess the closest thing to this, and we'll get to the Tinuke episode in a moment, but I mean, I guess we have more to say with the Doug episode here, but this reminds me of Josh and Jeremy and San Juan del Sur. Like, you are getting that's like that's the better comparison. Like, you're gonna get these two people who have been seen as in control, really in control of their tribes in that season, and then they are going out like back to back, and then you're just like, well, who's winning this season now? So
it's crazy. And going right back to the beginning of this episode, so coming off the back of Chris playing as immunity idol, we get Chris getting like shit back at camp for saving himself in the game and playing his idol, and it's like they're painting him out to be this kind of like hard game player and doing like, he had the most votes on his name and he played an idol. That's just what they're there for. It's part of the game. You can't be mad at him for saving himself, surely.
Yeah. As Nathan says, Christopher is sneaky and conniving. So
he's a bit sneaky, but that's not bad.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, that's the game of Survivor. I mean,
Survivor.
I mean, somebody even has a whole nickname. Stevie has a whole nickname about us being sneaky.
The sneaky king.
See how I was able to fit that one in? We only have one more name for anybody playing Tribe of Nerds Bingo out there.
Is it Ryan Wayne?
No, oh no, I didn't even think about that. No, I was thinking about I was thinking about Andy.
That one. All right. So yes, then we do get the holding on the pole challenge that Tinuke is going to win, and like them being super excited once Doug drops out because they know that the Calotons are gonna get to blindside Doug here, and he's not gonna see it coming.
Yeah.
I think so Tinuke's plan is to use the obvious target of Chris to take out a big threat in Doug. And it's easy to say that, like, obviously with Tinuke going next, that maybe this wasn't the best move, but I think this is a fantastic move to Tinuke. And it just took that one big flip that undid her. It makes no sense to vote out Chris at this point. He's like an island out there. So just, to use this time to get out a huge social threat in the game. Like, everyone loved Doug out there. He seemed to have great connections. This was fantastic from Tinuke. As much as it hurts my heart, as we love Doug. But this was a great move from Tinuke.
I'd argue like Tinuke still did have Chris in front of her, so it's not even that she messed up by taking Doug out and taking like a shield away from her, because she had that shield in Chris. Again, like you guys said, it's we'll get to it next episode, but it's just literally like it was just out of nowhere. The one vote that she could have gone, she went.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also just funny that she doesn't even loop Chris into it. So it's like Chris is this big threat in the game, and it's almost like you're not giving him a chance to like shine or take credit for something. It's like, no, this is my move, and I'm not going to give Chris anything else to kind of boost his reputation in the game. He can just vote for whoever he wants. It doesn't matter.
And
then this is where he uses his extra vote
to go Leilani.
On Leilani,
Which is an interesting decision. But I mean, he doesn't really have anything else he can do here.
Yeah, but obviously, as he said during our interview, he knew that she was a big threat to get to the end. So
and I mean, he did try to get the Lynettas back on the same page to actually do something. And I mean, she was a big threat. And like, again, if you're trying to guard against a potential idol play right there, it actually, you can, do the thing of weakening Tinuke. You can get rid of Leilani, and you can also, in case of an idol does get played, then they're not going to see Leilani.
This was a big kind of what if moment where we had conflicting reports on the Tribe of Nerds podcast with Doug claiming that Chris didn't tell him about the extra vote, and Chris claiming that Doug has selective memory. So it's if they managed to pull numbers together, would that have made it a 5-5?
I know.
With the extra vote, yes.
Oh, the extra vote, with the extra vote, yes.
If they went to a 5-5 with an extra vote, would the extra vote still count on a revote?
I actually don't know that, because I feel like there's been U.S. Survivor does that. I
don't think. I think the rule is extra votes don't count on revotes, but if you steal somebody's vote, that does count.
So maybe that plan would have fallen apart regardless.
I mean, I don't know, because I mean, U.S. Survivor has done it where it does care. I don't know. With UK, I honestly am not even sure that they would.
I don't even know what they would know. They would just say, "All right, guys, draw. Everybody go back to camp."
in my mind, true. Like, extra votes, in my opinion, should absolutely count on a revote, because otherwise, what's the point? Like, it completely negates the point of even using the thing if all you can do is get it to a tie. At least make it work for revote as well, and you can actually have an interesting rock tour, as we'll get to in South Africa next week.
Very interesting one.
Very. I had something else on this. Where is it? So we also have the Chris plan to fake plant an idol and try and throw some seeds of confusion, which Doug just goes up to everyone and is like, this guy, he's doing some stuff here. Just play along with him, and then you have Chris kind of coming in like, I found an idol, and everyone's like, cool.
Yeah. Leilani is like, good job, baby. One more note I had about this episode was the fish and chips reward, and I wanted to ask Michael this because Pegleg says this quote, and I just want to know if this was accurate. You don't get more British than fish and chips on the beach and deck chairs.
Yeah, that is absolutely accurate. Yes, like seaside holidays, like along the coast, like chip shops. Not particularly warm weather, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't get that warm anyway.
It sounds
Yeah,
sounds really nice.
Deck chairs with like the fabric. It's very very British. And ice creams with your fish and chips. Yeah, getting attacked by seagulls. It's an accurate statement. I also would just like to say I think Doug handles his blindside with absolute grace.
Yeah,
it's always nice to see, like, he's almost like not happy, but almost just like proud of like the show and the big move, and he's like, oh my god, that was crazy.
Yeah, I really liked his reaction as a fun thing. I mean, as a fun thing, it's like one of the best like blindside reactions. On the other side of the coin, we've seen some very devastated blindside reactions. So
what the hell, guys?
Yeah, that one being one of them. Or Rupert saying so much for my dreams.
Yes.
All right. So then we get to the 1-2 punch, the number 2 punch of Tinuke going next and just blowing the socks off of everybody watching.
Yeah. Tinuke starts the episode with a fantastic confessional where she says, talking about Chris, honey boo boo, you're next.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want him getting it twisted for any other reason than it was just to get Doug out. Honey boo boo, you're next. Yep.
Yeah, so anything else before we get to like the big planning and like before tribal council, because obviously there's going to be big stuff to talk about there.
Yeah, because the reward challenge is where that planning happens.
Yes,
this is the peg challenge where Christopher teabags Matt.
Yes.
Also, I do love how the UK Survivor actually zooms in and highlights which peg is the next one going out, which I thought was like a nice little thing because South Africa and Australia don't actually do that, so you don't know which peg they're actually going.
Yeah.
And like so many of the teams go out because they made a mistake. It wasn't even because they fell. It was they got the wrong peg or or the wrong person grabbed the peg.
And then there's a great moment of Leilani just hanging on with two hands on one peg, just like, hurry up, go.
Yeah, and then what's the immunity challenge for this?
This is on the ropes with the 3 stages, and then they do the building a tower that spins because you have the plates.
The plates. Yeah, from Australian Survivor. Yep. Yeah. It's a fun challenge, and Chris does not win this one. I'm trying to remember who does.
Lawrence does.
Lawrence. Okay. Lawrence wins this challenge. So then we get back to camp, and this is where the big part of the plan is going to happen. Chris is getting Hannah and Pegleg on board. Hannah and Pegleg are obviously both really betrayed because of Doug going out, so we do see that in this episode. And basically, I mean, Hannah has this like great relationship with Tinuke that's just completely broken apart because of this.
Yeah.
And so Chris gets them on board, and now is the big time to convince Matt to flip Matt and Lawrence. But
so this actually happens so it's after that first reward challenge. So it's Chris and Matthew win that challenge, and then they take Lawrence with them on the reward. So they're isolated from camp, and Chris had time to like sow the seeds and kind of just explain the hierarchy as he sees it, and sees Tinuke and Nathan at the top of that pyramid.
So speaking of that, I like how they can only take one person, because normally it would be like you can take 2 people. So then the person would always take the pair. So I like how you can only pick one, because it helps make more choices.
True. All right, and so
I'm glad it's not false.
So we get the conversations happening, and Lawrence thinks it's a good idea he's going to go tell Tinuke that her name is out there. And he's like, well, if I throw my vote, then she's going to know that I didn't vote for her. And this is one of those moments where it's just like, Lawrence, what are you thinking? This is Survivor. This is not an optimal play for you. If you're going to be in on this plan to blindside Tinuke, just go along with it. Like, actually vote for her, because you already knew it was happening.
Yeah, but
Or,
as
or
to
don't, and
as,
strengthen your relationship with her.
Yeah, and like yeah.
as Tinuke says, because he told her that if he's at the finals, she would vote for him. So
I mean, I
good boy.
guess, but clearly people are not going to let him get there now.
Yeah, no, this was so dumb. Like, I don't understand what his logic was of why this is the best play, because you're aware of the decision. If Lawrence votes with Tinuke's side, Tinuke's plan comes off. It's not like, so he was still involved in it because he threw his vote. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like I don't know. It was just the complete worst of both worlds. He was thinking it was going to be some big like jury management kind of thing, but I feel like it's almost just cowardice, to be honest.
Yeah, and then he becomes the expendable number. So if something goes wrong, they're going to sacrifice Lawrence next,
Yeah.
which ends up happening.
Yeah,
So
and kind of, we haven't actually talked about our eventual winner, Matthew, at all so
yes,
far in this
that's
podcast, and this, it essentially ends up being his big winning move, and I do give a lot of props to Matthew for this, because it is a
yes,
big gamble to take, and it's a big
yeah,
breaking of the kind of the way the season has been going, and easily the biggest blindside of the season. So for Matthew to have the game sense to make that big move and trust in his new relationships that he was building with Chris and other people in the tribe, that he was going to be okay. This was absolutely a game-winning move for Matthew, and it took guts to actually do it.
Yeah. I absolutely agree. I think had Matthew not made a move and then still won, it'd be a different somehow.
Yeah.
It would have been a different story, but he actually made the flip. Obviously Chris was a big part of that too, but I think Matthew absolutely deserves props at the end of the day, and I think I'm gonna be factoring it into the winner rankings that Matthew did make this move.
No, I'm not. I'm just making it. No, I'm kidding. I also have this quote from Matthew. People are calling Nathan and Tinuke the king and queen of the chess game. Well, as a former chess champion, Matthew, pawns can win too, or bishops, or knights. And also, a king isn't usually that good in a chess game. It doesn't do that much. You're always protecting it. So, just saying, if you're going to talk about chess, I'm going to call you out, man.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we get to tribal council, and so Tinuke is going to get blindsided. We get probably one of the biggest blindside reactions from the jury ever, that Doug is just shocked, Ashley's shocked. Like, this is huge. And so Tinuke is gone in a 4-3-1 vote. Any other thoughts before we move on?
I want to give the editors credit, because I was watching it. So as the votes are being read, especially as it gets near the end of about Tinuke going, it intercuts between Chris's smile, the jury, and Tinuke, and then it just keeps doing that, and Chris's smile just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I just really love that as much as this really hurt. Because this really did suck as the weekend. I was like, well, then who the fuck's going to win now?
Yeah. This really was, that question of, well, I guess it has to be Chris, but, but then it is Matthew. So it was definitely like wondering for sure.
I do like that this absolutely plays into who our eventual winner will be. So it's good that the biggest move of the season is a big factor in how this whole season resolves. There's also a great moment at Tribal Council where Chris calls out certain people's lack of gameplay, saying that they're playing like they're just on their hollybobs.
Yeah, the hollybobs. Yes. That what does that mean exactly? High horse, I'm assuming, or
no, like on their holidays, like they're on a vacation. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but why is it called a hollybobs?
It's just British people. We have funny names for things going on our hollybobs.
Sounds stupid. Okay.
That makes sense now.
Does it? No.
I guess. All right. Episode 13, and this is the infamous lobster trap episode. So let's talk about this decision, because I don't understand the decision to not take the idol, as we talked about with Chris. Like, why not just wrap something up and stick a fake idol inside? He doesn't do that. He leaves it in, and clearly Nathan obviously knows he's at the bottom, is like the biggest physical threat to them. So, Nathan is obviously going to go for it. So
Yeah.
it's just, this is absolutely, it could have been a game-ending blunder for Matthew potentially, for him to, leave this for Nathan. Luckily for him, it doesn't, and his connections do obviously save him. But yeah, this is crazy that this ends up happening.
Yeah, this is dumb. Like I think it was Chris who says this is Dumb and Dumber, and it really is. It's like every choice they made for this was a bad one.
Yeah.
All around. Like, it's funny that we went from like the biggest move of the season, like fantastic gameplay and pulling numbers to get Tinuke out of the game, to just a complete calamity of errors where, like, I mean, it's a disaster. And then even for Nathan, who the way he goes about having this idol is just insanity. I don't know what he's thinking. Like, this episode is just littered with insane gameplay. Yeah, I mean, it's so obvious. Just take the idol and put a rock in there and lock it back up, and people will go check the trap, and it's like, oh yeah, there's something still in there. It's just insane. And the fact that this is how Nathan gets his idol, and then there's the brilliant moment of Doug, he's gone. Christopher and Matthew going back to the trap to check, and Chris just being like, I can't. You know that old meme of like, I can't believe you've done this after you get punched in the face. It's like that. It's I just cannot believe you have done this.
Yeah, I have so many quotes on this. So after they find the open trap, Matthew goes, "We just need to stay calm." I am calm. I'm just annoyed. No shit. Then I also have this quote. If Chris didn't have that necklace, he'd be even more mad at me. No shit, motherfucker. I'd be fucking...
Yeah.
Yeah, the only silver line here for Chris is that he's okay. He has the immunity, but man, what a disaster.
Yeah, and then so Matthew convinces Christopher to give him the key because there will be no suspicion if it was me. I don't follow this logic at all because everybody already knows that he betrayed to Tinuke, so I don't see what I just can't follow it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are going to get to the next immunity challenge where Chris is going to win this one, and
this is the high step back.
Dominoes.
The
dominoes. Yes.
Yeah. But after seeing Titans versus Rebels, it's like I can't watch these normal dominoes anymore
without the weight. Yeah. I mean, again, this is a classic challenge though. I mean, I don't know that I can see the high steps the same way after Jake O'Kane destroyed that challenge in 45. So, yeah.
I didn't do it on purpose. I know.
All right, so then basically Nathan plays it all the wrong ways of this idol, and it's very public, and people obviously know Nathan's going to play it. So Lawrence ends up taking the fall here, and as we just talked about with Lawrence making that game-ending blunder, that's going to make him the scapegoat for this vote. I mean, it's very interesting. I don't think the show goes into why Lawrence went out enough. Like, they could have absolutely, showed more of that decision. But, obviously, we can read between the lines and know why that happened. But
yeah, I think Matthew's the obvious fall guy in this situation. But yeah, Lawrence is full. One funny thing, when Christopher wins the immunity, Joel says, "Well done, Christopher. Nobody can vote for you tonight." Makes a change. It's not very often you have the host commenting on how the game is going,
unless if you're JLP and the player is Jordy.
Yeah.
True.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, well, you said Matthew was the fall guy. He was able to get 0 votes during this tribal, which is just impressive.
Yeah, this is another good thing for Matthew's game, is that he is able to betray Nathan and Leilani and not get their votes after this, because for how this season has been going, you would think that they would have been so mad that Matthew would have been voted for just for petty reasons.
Yeah. I mean, I need to talk to him because I need to learn his secrets. Because I got votes for not betraying people, and I still got the blame.
Yeah.
We do see Matthew have like very good damage control in the early parts of this episode where he's talking to people about the decision. He makes it like he doesn't treat it like a game almost. He's very personal and human about it, and just saying it's something that he felt he had to do, and he's very good about like shifting that off him and trying to explain himself. And yeah, so Nathan gets called out as well for the smug hypocrisy of he's already potato. I hate how judgmental people are of playing the game while also playing. It's like Nathan plays an idol and Chris plays an idol, and Chris is somehow this monstrous person. And it's like I just don't get it. Like what? Like Nathan was completely against Chris, and if he's so against idols, he should have thrown it in the damn ocean.
Yeah. I forgot to mention this. I think it might have been during like the Doug vote or whatever where Nathan was really smug, or maybe it was this episode, but like there's one point where like Chris is arguing with Nathan at Tribal and Nathan like laughs at him and Chris is like not that funny.
Yeah. No, it's definitely this one because next episode starts with Hannah saying both Nathan and Christopher we're talking so much because they were safe.
Okay, so yeah, so it was this episode, thankfully. Yeah, so yeah, Nathan just laughs at him and Chris is just like, not that funny. It was like really, it was like, that's a really funny interaction.
And of course, Nathan's got no votes on him because who's going to risk it? It's like,
Nathan. He really did play that so poorly when it could have been like he could have played it so much better. There's way different ways to handle that.
Yeah, I just don't think he was a Survivor fan. I just don't think he has that going.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to say on Lawrence? Are we ready to hit the episode 14?
I've really enjoyed him. I thought he was funny. So I understand why he was cast.
Yeah, I understood more on this rewatch too. So I was very intrigued by Lawrence. All right.
Speaking of Lawrence, we get his Sex Pants funeral next.
Oh yes,
there we go.
Yes,
thank you. Perfect tie-in. Yeah.
Yes, let's tie that in. So the Sex Pants funeral and burning of them in the fire.
Yes. The entire note I have is Leilani prays to the underwear god with Sex Pants Cherry Lawrence's underwear.
It's so funny.
So good. All right, and this is what is the challenge in this episode again?
Mud bath.
Oh, the reward, is the mud bath.
Oh yeah, the classic mud bath where back when Tony somehow won that challenge and then scarfed down pizza. So yeah, I do like this challenge. It's another classic one. I would hate to be covered in all that mud, but like
it's like if you're gonna have a spa reward, we're gonna have a mud challenge just so we get the shots of them cleaning themselves off covered in mud. There's also a really odd production choice where they have slow motion footage of them diving in with classical music.
I have that too. It's like I don't understand this.
Yeah,
so bizarre.
Again, like
someone think something from Squid Game.
Yeah. Oh, that would be an interesting. Oh no, I don't want to watch that one.
Yeah.
But if people are going to be covered in mud, at least it's for a reward, for a spa day instead of like say on day one in U.S. Survivor. It's like, well, now I'm going to be dirty the entire time.
Right.
The only benefit of going home early is you are the cleanest, but not if everybody gets dirty on day one.
Right. I realize that now too. Everybody gets muddy now in the new era. So immediately,
because it's the hardest Survivor has ever been.
The hardest, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then, the immunity challenge.
This is called Beam Me Up. There's cross beams. You go under beams, and then you do a puzzle, and then Peg Leg wins. I think it was a turtle was the puzzle.
Yeah, the sea turtle. Yep. Yeah, so Pegleg wins his second immunity challenge, and now we're gonna get to the decision between Chris and Nathan of who to boot. We alluded to it earlier. I think Pegleg and Hannah should have taken their shot at Chris. Obviously, I think they can keep Nathan around as a shield, and Nathan is less likely to get the votes, like to get them out next. Like because Nathan, I don't think is going to work with Matthew again because of what happened, and like all Nathan has, I guess, is Leilani. Like they can have a clear 3-2 majority at the next vote. So this was the wrong decision for.
Well, yes, it was. But the reason that it happened was because Hannah confronts Nathan about being cocky, and then she didn't like that. So then Hannah and Pegleg agreed to work with Chris on this vote
to get Nathan out.
This is the problem. There's so many decisions that are made because of personal reasons in this season rather than what's good for their game. You don't have to like the people that you're working with. It's about what makes the most sense for your game. And yeah, I hate when it comes down to like personal issues in Survivor. Play the game that makes sense for you to get to the end and actually have a chance of winning. I have one more note before we get to the tribal council, which is the spa reward. We get footage of Chris using a loofah to clean his dick, and Hannah says, "Yeah, get that clean, boy." It's so bizarre.
I don't know. I don't know whether that is the most interesting moment of doing that, or if it's a Luke Toki in season 2 using the trimmers.
Yeah, which he thinks is a clue or an idol.
Yeah. So, all right. So Nathan's gonna go. Any closing thoughts on Nathan?
No. One weird thing about this in the run-up is that we don't get anything from Chris. From the end of the immunity challenge up until tribal council, Chris isn't in a single scene. Yeah. It's considering Chris is like the other option. It's just odd that we don't get any like strategy from Chris of how he's going about that. I guess it was just an obvious Nathan boot, but yeah, we don't see anything from him.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I mean, he was fine. Like I understand why he was gay. It's the first season of UK Survivor, so you want somebody big and beefy. But yeah, he was just kind of. He was there. I will give him credit. He was there. He was on the season.
He did find an idol.
So, oh my god! If only it was that easy to find idols on Vanquish. My god.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. My only other note is that Tribal actually gives a funny look when Leilani says he's built up organic friendships, but not alliances. So it's just like, there's Leilani, we know what it is.
Yeah. All right, episode 15. This is the Pegleg boot episode. Chris is going to win the final 5 immunity, which was
Pinball Wizard, which is one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, the Luke Toki Memorial Challenge. Yeah.
But in this one, you're allowed to look at the puzzle while your ball waits, where I think it was Survivor 46 who changed it. You're not allowed to look, which I actually like more.
Yeah. I remember this in 46. I think Charlie won it that season. Yeah. So, I like this challenge. And so, Chris is going to be safe and guaranteed final 4. So, as we said, Pegleg was gonna be seen as the next biggest threat now, and anything else before we get to talking about?
We get more loved ones.
Oh yeah, of
phone
course.
Home.
Yes.
Which I would have preferred this over having the letters, but I do like how there is some strategy involved of picking which amount of time. So I thought that was at least nice.
Yeah, and I mean, you have people strategizing over, like, I guess giving personal reasons as to why this person deserves more time, and like, Pegleg gets like the most time, or Matthew. I think they were like the two that were like
Leilani.
Leilani,
Leilani got 15, Hannah got 10, Peg got 5, Matt got 3, and Christopher got 1.
Okay, Matthew got the second least. Okay, I knew Pegleg got a good amount, or I thought he got a good amount, but Chris only gets the minute.
I do like that Chris is like, I don't care, I travel, like I just need to make sure they're okay. I would have been the same. I'd absolutely take the first take the lowest amount and try and build some goodwill. I'd try to make it my choice, though. I would have liked to have gone to the Chris has just left with a minute.
Yeah.
It would have been good to go to the outpost and choose the minute and leave the bigger options for someone else.
Yeah, well, he also told Matt just whatever is the lowest. I'll take that. But every time there's a loved ones one like this, I always think of James Clement from, I think it was China. No, it was Micronesia, where he's like, I don't need to win. I talk to my dad all the time.
Yeah. I mean, James's dad was one of the funniest loved ones. So, because his dad is getting upset that all the women are just taking him out and taking out all the men, and he's like, "We're gonna talk about her when we get home."
Yeah. Speaking about dads, I have this note for Peg's phone call. His daughter says, "I don't have a car," and then Peg goes, "Again?" It's like, what the fuck is his daughter doing with these cars?
I don't know. But yeah, so we're gonna get to the tribal council now that with Pegleg is unfortunately going to go, and I think we've talked positive about Pegleg as a character and as a player. So I really did like Pegleg. I thought he was obviously one of the more interesting people on this season. So.
Mm-hmm. And then he sets the record for being the highest placing amputee ever,
right?
Because he beat Noel from 43, which I think was 7 or 6.
I think it was 8th. I think Noel Lambert and Chad from Vanuatu both got 8th, and Kelly Bruno in Nicaragua got the lowest because she went pre-merge.
Peg does completely misplay this, though, where he for some reason decides to sell himself as a big threat on the in the tribal council, where he's like, I've got good bonds with the jury, and he's like really selling his game. It's like, well, of course we're going to vote you out.
Yeah.
This isn't the time or the place to be saying that.
I didn't think about that. Now I'm going to vote for you. Thank you.
Yeah. I know in my Vanquish season, I know there was one point where there was a tribal council. I mean, nobody else is going to know this story but me, but there was a time when I was with 2 people, and both the other people were pumping themselves up as the biggest threats, and I was just like, and I was able to be like, I know I'm not the biggest threat, and I just let the 2 people think that they were the biggest threats. So
smarter.
I'm just Jake. I'm not a big threat. I'm just Jake.
Right. Exactly. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And then I believe this is the only time Matthew got a vote cast against him.
Yes. Yep. He's only gotten one from Pegleg, and so I guess it was more like a compliment vote at this point. So I mean, again, credit to Matthew if he's able to only get one vote the entire season. So
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I got 14 and I only went to like 3 tribals. So.
Yeah.
I got 1.
I got nothing.
Okay, wow. Must be nice. Well, I also made the biggest move. I also made the game-changing move, and then everybody voted for me at Merge. So
True.
That's where all the votes came from.
True, that's true. All right. So now we get to the finale, and so we're gonna get to the final immunity challenge, which is of course our big endurance challenge that we always get. And I guess it's similar to like the champions versus contenders and all-stars challenges from Australian Survivor
I would say all-stars, because it was basically the same thing, but they weren't like actually in the water.
Yeah
They're pulling something back,
right? So, and it's 4 people, and so I think this actually might be one of the few times where they have 4 people doing like this type of challenge.
Yeah.
So
it's a very final 3 challenge usually.
Yeah. So this is where Chris is going to win it by a split second over Leilani. They both fall. Leilani actually looks like she has a very hard fall, which is kind of scary. And Chris he just falls backwards.
because Christopher is like about to celebrate, and Joel just pushes him out of the way and checks on Leilani, which I don't like, because like when she fell, like it felt like her back of her head. That's one of the most dangerous spots. So
right.
And also Chris pisses himself.
Yep.
Yes,
right.
He does piss himself. Yes, I noticed that too. All right. So then it turns out, as Chris told us, on the interview that Hannah basically Pegleg had threatened that Hannah was going to win the game if she made it there. So they just decided to vote Hannah out here. Hannah, for me, I mean, she's the fallen angel of the season. She just didn't do anything for me on the actual season. I don't know if there was actually more there, but what we saw was nothing.
Yeah.
So
what we saw, it wasn't. I mean, yeah, there wasn't that much. She seems nice, but I wish we would have gotten more. Because if you ever make it to a finale, I always want like to root for like each person, but she barely got anything.
Yeah,
I have big problems with this. In the org community that we're all part of, that's how we met. There's a term that gets bandied around a lot of friend Viva, and the fact that going into this, Hannah and Lilani, who in my mind, no disrespect, were both goats throughout this season. They didn't have big moves. They didn't really do anything that changed the game. And they are considered the big threats because people like them on the jury. They are likable, I'm sure. I'm sure they're lovely people. But the problem with this is, if we get a season 2, hypothetically, how different is the landscape of Survivor? Does Richard Hatch not win season 1? The fact that it's a strategic game comes from the fact that Richard's hard strategy won the game. So everything that came after was people adopting that and saying, this is what works. You have to be strategic. So, like, this season of the show where strategy is just punished, if there is a season 2, what benefit do the players actually have of going out there and playing a big strategic game if you're just going to get blown up for it? Like, so my worry is, if we get a season 2, it's just going to be more of like, you play the good social game, but there's no real benefit for you as a player to play a big game that is, like, strategy and big move based, because all you're going to be is punished.
Yeah, I mean, at least I'll say for Matthew, at least he did make that big move. So at least people will see, okay, if you make that one move, to like that huge move, then you will get credit. So I can at least say that, but I definitely see what you're saying, because there's obviously the concern because so many other players tried to do something and got punished for it, for sure.
Yeah, it's just more the fact that, like, going into this final, every single season we see where it's like the fallen angel is, they're taken out because they've played a big game, or we see it so many times throughout Survivor. And the fact that it comes down to these two people that I almost thought were a complete lock for final 3, that one of them is going to be the fallen angel when they haven't played a big game.
Right.
Yeah. This is like the CGI Brett from Samoa, where he was there, but you have to get rid of him because everybody on the jury is going to vote for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the King George or the Malcolm or the Rob Cesternino of this, where they're just that's who I think of when I think of a great fallen angel.
And then for anybody playing Tribe of Nerds Bingo at home, just notice that Jake did mention Malcolm, so make sure to mark that. Square.
That was the other name you were waiting for. Okay, cool.
I have one more complaint. I promise I'm nearly over. Joel at the final immunity challenge imposes a new rule on the game, where he says, now we're going to do it on one leg.
He does say that, yes.
Don't impose a new rule on final immunity. It's so important. Like, they're out there trying to get their way to final tribal council. If it goes long, it goes long. If that was me and I was in a good position and now I've got to balance on one leg and I lose that final immunity, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah.
The challenge is the challenge. I feel like other challenges, I get it, but like final immunity, it's such an important one to win. And I just don't agree with changing the rules on a challenge like that.
This is what they should have done, like Tom did in Palau.
I was just going to bring that up.
He refused to do it. He's like, I will sue you guys for changing the rules mid-challenge.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I was just going to bring that up, actually. So, we needed a Tom Westman out here to say that. All right, so Hannah's gone. We have the final 3 going into our final tribal council. And so the big eventful stuff from this final tribal is obviously like Lee and Christopher fight more. Obviously, Lee is telling Chris he has no morals and is a disgusting person. And yeah.
We can just skip Lee. I think we're done with him.
Yeah, we can just be done.
I have one more thing to say about him, and then I'm done. Joel says, up until this point, the jury has remained silent. The fuck they have, Joel.
No, they have not.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And then, yeah, we also have Doug being like the sensible juror on there, giving Matt and Chris like a softball question to try to get the truth. And Chris does drop the ball on this question. So at least I will say, if like, because Doug did say on the podcast that like some of them, like a few of them were at least open to voting for Chris and that he did drop the ball. So I can believe that. And yeah, if Chris lost the game partially because of this question, like, you know, unfortunately, that's on Chris.
I don't think Chris gave a fantastic final tribal performance, but I also don't blame him where like it's a nerve-wracking thing anyway.
Yes.
I've never been to one, but
I've been there.
If people are coming for you that hard, like I don't blame him for, you know, losing his confidence and losing his nerve in the face of all that. Like it got to the point almost with that Doug question where I felt like he almost misread what Doug was wanting to hear, where it's like he wasn't willing to say that he did make this big move because he's been punished up to this point for talking about those thing. So he was trying to like placate at that point, and he just I felt like his nerve had gone and he was just done.
Yeah, he also may have been frustrated. I know I said I wasn't gonna bring him up again, but Lee saying he didn't want an all girls alliance, an all guys alliance. It's like we talked about this during Blood versus Water about gaslighting. Like I would have lost my fucking shit if I was Chris.
Yeah. Lee basically like denying something that he's. You have Leilani and Ashley also reacting to that. Like they can't believe that Lee is denying that he said these things.
Yeah.
So there is nothing worse than when you know you are right and you're not being heard. It's so frustrating. And I mean,
I have that all the time. I'm always right.
Yeah.
It's so annoying.
Luckily there was filmed evidence that Chris was right on that, but
but like Matthew did do a good job of answering the question and owning what he did. It's interesting. I know Tinuke and Leilani had a good relationship from what they did show that Tinuke that said she did have a close relationship with Leilani on the show. So I get her voting that way. I was a little surprised she didn't.
I was a little disappointed.
Yeah.
Because Tinuke was like, as we said, like the Haley or the Parvati, but just voting for Leilani was just kind of.
Yeah, it is what it is. I see what with the relationship, but yeah, as we said, it was a little disappointing.
I have a couple more notes about this tribal. Matthew gave a great answer. Like he wrote down every good move involved more than one person. I don't think anyone can take credit for one massive thing. This is like how Farrah said during his tribal, like it was so fluid, nobody can take credit. So that was good on Matthew. And then earlier I said Nathan was kind of blah, but I did like this. He was talking to Leilani. Why do you think someone who has been on the bench for the whole match should win Survivor? And then Leilani gives an answer. I changed up my game, you know, like final 9. And then Nathan goes, so you've been playing for 1 week.
Yeah. It was brutal.
Yeah, that was a good that was a good one. All right. Well, Matthew wins 6 to 1 to 1. So
and gets the medallion.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yes. He gets a medal. Like this is honestly something I would not mind every week.
I quite like it.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. All right. So let's get to our awards and then our rankings. And we're just gonna keep it to the international seasons for the rankings, just for simplicity and fluidity. All right. Awards. Favorite player. I'm gonna go with Doug. It was between Doug and Chris, and Doug was my winner pick. I really loved his pre-merge game, and I think Doug just misread his position. Unfortunately, but I really do love Doug on this season, so I was very happy to get to talk to him.
I'm just imagining that the meme Michael told us about Doug's game with the three dragons?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It just
I
made me
can't
laugh.
apologize enough, Doug.
All right, Michael, your favorite player.
Should I explain that on the podcast?
Yeah, you can explain it real quick.
Yeah, so I love Doug. He's fantastic. We would love to have him on the podcast. But when the season was airing, the meme of the three-headed dragon, where there's like two dragons look really ferocious and terrifying, the third one looks kind of dopey. I had it as the two ferocious dragons, Doug, tribe portion of the game, Doug tribe swap, and then Doug merge. But all in good fun. I love you, Doug.
Yeah. Michael, who would you say your favorite player is?
Matt, who's yours? Because I want to.
I was going to pick who you didn't pick because I wanted to give love.
Same.
Okay. Well. Okay. I'll go Christopher because he was the entertainment of the season. His confessionals are great. His over dramatic, getting out of challenges or throwing challenges. And he was on the podcast, even though his video didn't work when it did. He was very animated.
Yes,
loved it.
Yes,
and he's hilarious. So I'll go Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like we were on the same wavelength where it's like I want the three pillars of this season to be represented. So I'm going to go with Tinuke. And Tinuke was just, if like we said, if she doesn't go there, she probably wins this game. She was so well rounded and she was a fantastic player. And if this show continues and there's an All Stars, Tinuke 100% is getting that call.
Yeah,
Tinuke, Doug, Christopher, they're all locks. Like I want Tinuke on Australian Survivor too if we want to make that happen.
Yeah. All right, least favorite player. This is the obvious one. I'm going with Lee, obviously. So I don't know if you guys are going to follow suit or if you're going to pick someone I'm not expecting. But
usually I like to try and spread it out. But no, I'm going for Lee.
Yeah, I think this is where a dog pile is okay. So for me, it's Lee.
Yeah, all right. We're on the same page for this one, I think, for the first time ever.
Yeah.
All right. Best move. This might I will see it if we get any variation, but I'm going with the Tinuke blindside. It's literally what won Matt the game and changed the entire game. So
yeah, I mean it's between the Tinuke and the Doug, but I think the Tinuke one completely changes the complexion of the game. It is a huge shift in power and absolutely the move of the season.
Yeah, it's Tinuke for me too. Because I remember afterwards.
In unison again.
Yeah, because I remember after the episode, it's like Doug goes, Tinuke goes. Well, who's going to win? But then I'm like, this season's going to be fucking great. It's just going to keep building up, and then we'll get to the rankings. It's just kind of eater.
Yeah. Who should return? I decided to go differently. I mean, we have the three pillars that we said should return. I'm going to go with Christopher on this one. I think just the entertainment that he brought to the entire season, and he said he wanted to play Australian Survivor, so I would love for him to get the chance.
Do we have to have one answer on this, or can we have like?
We could have multiple, so I would say Doug and Tinuke obviously as well.
Yeah, so I was going to say like the three 100%. I'd really there's players that I feel had potential that I'd like to see get another shot, and I'd say Ren and Shy.
Oh yeah, I would love to see them get a shot with like other fans. So
yeah,
I'm going to mix up a little bit here and go Richard and Lee. No, I'm kidding. No, just mix it up because obviously the three pillars, as Michael has called it, which I love that name. If they ever get on a season again, like that'll be their alliance name. I'll go Matthew just to see what his game will be like now that he's won, and I would go. I'll go Shy, just because he was just like an outcast for no reason, and I just don't like that.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so let's head to our rankings now. So the rankings as they stand for International Survivor, for Australian Survivor, we have the Golden God, David Gannat at number 1, followed by Ferris, followed by Mark Wales, followed by Haley, followed by Pia, that's the top 5, then Liz, Jericho, Christy, and Shane Gold. For Matthew Haywood, I think I said in the chat, I think he played similar to Jericho. I think like, but as opposed to Jericho, I feel like Matthew had a little more agency at certain points in the game than Jericho ever did. Because Jericho was on the bottom of some votes and made, I think, a couple moves that ended up actually dooming members of his alliance, like with Sarah and Luke in season 2. And I just feel like compared to the other ones, I mean, maybe there's an argument to put him above Liz, but I would
Nah.
I think putting him above Jericho for me, so that would put him as the new number 7. I think is the right spot for Matthew.
I would agree. I think it's a very tight between Jericho and Matthew for me. I don't think he's anywhere close to Liz. I think also we talked about it where it's like you have to compare with the players that they're up against, and like Liz being in a season with like seasoned veterans of the game and finding her game throughout.
She'd be King.
Competition puts her above for sure.
Yeah, so. I'd put Matthew below that.
Yeah, Matt.
My first instinct was to put him just above Shane, just because I love Christy.
That was mine too. Yeah.
In her end game, but hearing you guys talk about this, like it doesn't matter because you guys already put him above Jericho, so the odds aren't in my favor. But I'll put him below Jericho. Hold on, let me think about. Nah, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because
my initial was below Jericho, but I actually think Jake made a good point there about the moves he made. I think Matthew is more consistent and solid. I actually think that's a good point.
And then Jericho had like an easy Final Four. Like
and he still lost votes to Tara.
So.
All right. So Matthew new number 7 above Jericho, Christy, and Shane. All right. International,
but at least he has that medal. So
that's true. All right. International seasons, UK 2023, season 1. At least we'll see. We don't know if we're gonna get more after.
We will make it happen, Michael. We will get you on season 5. Damn it.
All right.
No, don't be greedy. I'm gonna get you on season 5.
All right, this is the ranking of Australian Survivor so far in the international rankings. Titans versus Rebels, Heroes versus Villains, Champions versus Contenders 2, that's the top 3. 2017, Brains versus Brawn, rounding at the top 5. All-Stars, 2016, Champions versus Contenders 1, and Blood versus Water. So, UK for me, okay, I think let's talk this through. So last place, Blood versus Water, is it better than that season? I would say yes, because it was a little more interesting when it got to the interesting half of the season, and Blood versus Water had a lot of unnecessary twists. UK avoided that.
Yeah, Christopher, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I know you love Blood versus Water, but UK was way better.
Yeah. All right, so then it's up to Champions versus Contenders 1. Is this season better than that? I would say
I say yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess comparatively, I mean, what if we're looking at like the biggest moves of the season?
So there's Matt Rogers and Benji, and then there's Doug and Tinuke. Oh, actually, Doug. Well, Shawnee, and then so Shawnee would be the Christopher, where they didn't win, but they were super entertaining, and they'll be invited back. Oh my God! And then Zach and Lee. Oh my God! So they're almost the same season.
Yes, they are almost the same season. So it's about which one is better. So
I think there was more consistent gameplay in Champions versus Contenders.
I agree.
In terms of like from beginning to end, people are playing the game, and it's not just like with this season we have episodes 1 to 5, and then to be honest, pretty much from the Nathan boot to the end is quite by the numbers. So I would put it below Champions versus Contenders personally.
I would probably agree with that, because like I feel like there was I like the Doug Tinuke 1-2 punch was crazy. I also think the Matt Rogers Benji 1-2 punch was just as crazy. And like the Matt Rogers like round in total, like the build up to that was just insane, and like how it actually happened. So I would
All
put
right,
this.
fine. I mean, I actually liked Survivor UK, where it was like a time capsule, and
So
almost
did
like
I.
a history book of Survivor.
Hmm.
But then it just kind of peters off, and it almost goes back to the dinosaurs. But yeah, like you're saying, yeah, because if Doug and Tinuke went with idols, then I would argue harder.
Yes.
But having Matt Rogers and Benji go back to back with idols, yeah, I'll say
Yes.
that's
And
Yeah.
also Benji getting what's her
Sharn.
name?
Sharn.
Garn.
Sharn
To not play her idol.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that's a great one.
Yeah. So they both have lows, they both have really big highs. So
Yeah.
I would say they're right even. And UK I enjoyed it more on the rewatch. It's just like when we're
Same.
comparing it to the international season or the other, Australian season so
I also
far.
think the reason I wanted to rank it higher was because UK was shorter, which if it's a bad season, having it shorter makes it more tough.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that completely. Well, that's it for Survivor UK, and that means
One and done.
yeah, one and
Well,
done. So we're gonna move on to Survivor South Africa, and how we're gonna do this is we're gonna start from where it technically rebooted. So we're gonna start from Survivor South Africa Philippines season 6, and go from there to Return of the Outcasts. So yeah, season 6 of Survivor South Africa is that's a
yeah,
pretty good one. Starts off pretty crazy.
yeah,
I just rewatched the premiere last night
yeah.
again, so
And
very
then you guys will hear me be very frustrated about those final two.
yes, possibly one of the worst final twos ever in Survivor history. So I'm interested where the winner is going to rank.
Oh my God, I didn't even think about that. Oh man, I can't wait to keep watching.
I
Yeah,
need to rewatch because I don't have enough to go off to have an opinion. I'm very unfamiliar with Survivor South Africa in comparison to the rest. So yeah, it's I'm gonna have to watch this and make my decision from there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
A spoiler, Michael, in the opening episode, one player has to say Nico's full name. You did this in the Heroes versus Villains chat. I'm going to make you do it live on the podcast of saying Nico's full name.
I knew because as soon as I saw that part of the episode, I was like, I'm gonna have to say this. I know it. I'll practice.
Yay. All right. Anything else before we close out the UK review?
Come back. Give
Yeah.
us more seasons.
Come back, yeah.
Yeah.
BBC. Me,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We want more
Look,
seasons.
look at him now. He has better hair, so it'll be easier.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. With that, we will see you all next time on the Tribe of Nerds.